All right, guys, let's get this going. So Hasan seems to have more meaningfully responded. I don't know if he actually watched anything of Ethan's, which seems to be a consistent problem. He doesn't really watch fully Ethan's stuff, or really much of anybody's criticisms of him. Even though he streams for like 8 to 10, 12, or 12 hours a day. So you'd think he'd at least leave it on and absorb the information, but that doesn't seem to be part of his strategy of, you know, interacting with his friend. At least his friend. You'd think he'd at least listen to his friend. I mean, you'd think he would have talked to his friend behind the scenes before it came out, which I know Ethan tried to do, but Hasan isn't particularly receptive, which is where all this is coming from. But, yeah, let's just see what Hasan has to say. Maybe he makes a great point. I don't really know. Let's get this going. Hasan responds to Ethan and addresses everything. This was just posted.
Sam Cedar about the drama today at the 128 mark. What drama?
I'm not the biggest Pete Buttigieg fan, but he was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. The book. Yeah, exactly. Colin.
So sorry, I'm like really nervous. I'm calling because I've seen like a lot of really crazy mudslinging towards one of my favorite content creators, whom I know you have a good relationship as well with, Hasan Piker. And I'm not sure.
Damn, he's going straight to Unc, dude. He's going straight to Unc. That's Unc. That's my uncle. Everybody, calm down.
Been keeping up with it because it's sort of like this intersectionality between like political commentators and like random crappy YouTube drama. But
well, I mean, like, I just want to be very clear. Hasan is political drama, right? We understand this. Hasan isn't like a serious, like, political figure. That's why he's so popular with young people, which, by the way, is not a bad thing. I'm not saying children. Like, Sam Cedar is more of a politics guy. Hasan is a political drama guy, right? Like, when you look here, what do we have here? Oh, this is political drama. A lot of this is political drama. A lot of it is political drama. Some of it's just drama. Some of it's more politically motivated. But do you think that this is not political here? Lieutenant Dan is alive? Okay. We have to be proportionate about the label of Hasan. Like, he's political drama. He's not like explicitly politics. But okay.
And I know that you also have a relationship or have been on the HD podcast. So anyway, just to give like this spiel really quickly, if you haven't heard of it, Ethan Klein sort of has had this like crazy campaign against Hasan lately.
Not really a campaign, man. He's just upset that his friend is not taking him seriously and like anti-Semitic dog whistling. You know, I think the biggest one for me is when he wasn't even being sensitive to that whole tier list that legitimately was Arab to Jew, Jew being bad. That's what it was. And, you know, if you want to be reasonable and say, hey, you want to know what? I don't think that there was any anti-Semitic intention. However, considering the political climate, it does come off as anti-Semitic. That would be fine. But he's not even doing that. He's like, no, it's not a big deal. It's just a joke. Like, you have to get over it. But we know that jokes are used all the time as vehicles for hatred, right? Not all the time. It's not always that. But we know that just because something is a joke doesn't mean that it's not hateful. We have a fundamental understanding of that, right? Like, we know that for a fact. And so, like, this time, all of a sudden, it's different. That we just, like, forget that? No, it's, like, silly goosery, right? But that one's, like, annoying. It's particularly dismissive. I mean, him not caring if Israeli people are assaulted, we'll say. There's just a lot of stuff. I mean, it's hard to qualify. You know, I try to qualify everything, but there's such a long laundry list of things that, like, Hasan is at the very least dismissive of, that it's insane.
Insinuating that his fan base is anti-Semitic and that he's...
They definitely are, yeah.
Allowing this sort of area of his community to exist. And just going above and beyond to...
Thank you for the $5 from Pink Kisses. Good morning, Papa. I just wanted to say that you remind me of a young Mark Henry. Thank you. I appreciate that, brother.
Make the most bad faith arguments in order to like perpetuate this narrative, and it's really like been...
Considering how charitable Ethan is, even if you think Ethan's stupid, that's your best argument. Your best argument. They're not bad faith arguments. Your best argument is that Ethan is stupid because like Ethan is insanely charitable to Hasan. Insanely charitable. He doesn't even think Hasan's anti-Semitic, which I think I disagree with at this point. He's insanely charitable to Hasan. So I don't think it's fair to say that they're uncharitable because there's an intentionality of uncharitability linked to that when I don't think that that's the case. But
personally upsetting to me specifically because here's this guy who, I'm sorry, I'm like really fucking really nervous. Here's this guy who's like defended Palestinian, the Palestinian people for so long, way before like this year, like for years and years and years. I myself, I'm a Jewish person. I went on birthright when I was 19 and I was radicalized by Birthright Unplugged. So I was able to see what was going on in the occupied West Bank at the time, and it was particularly upsetting to me. So, yeah, no, I guess the reason I'm calling...
Well, I mean, like, none of that would be dismissed by Ethan, right? Like Ethan's take and my take is that Israel has the right to exist, which it does. Israel has the right to defend itself, which it does, but it does not have its right to defend itself with reckless abandon and do whatever it wants. I think the best case example of this is Netanyahu specifically saying we're going to eradicate all of Hamas and we won't stop until that's done. And the reason why that's wrong is because they will never. That's not how it works. Hamas is a radical terrorist organization, absolutely, but it's because their people have been put into oppression that they are supporting them. There's a lot of support for Hamas in Palestine, kind of just understandably so, right? And so setting up this unrealistic expectation of like, oh, we're not going to stop until they're completely eradicated, to me, is a call for some kind of a genocide. It's unrealistic. It's unreasonable. And it's an issue that's been exacerbated by Donald Trump not working with Hamas during his presidency when there were peace deals going on between Israel and other Arabic countries. Right? That's the argument. That's simply the argument. And when you have Hasan running defense and saying arguments like there can't be a two-state solution, which is just stupid and unrealistic and impractical, and downplaying the atrocities that Hamas is committing onto Israeli people, not that it's not going in both directions, but to champion one side, to downplay the rapes that definitely were happening, and to just be like unintelligent about it. That's the problem. He has an extraordinary amount of empathy for Palestinian people, but zero for Jewish people. That's the issue. That's the problem. At every term, it seems like he doesn't really care that Jewish people are dying. When he says it's not an optically good play for Jewish people to get raped, but not saying, hey, that's a morally deplorable thing, those are these little dog whistling things that come off as like, oh, you really don't seem to care about Jews. When you have no sensitivity to a tier list that is very clearly Arabs to Jews, Jews being on the bottom, it's very clear you don't seem to care very much about Jewish people. This is why people think he's anti-Semitic, and you package that with his historical, just pure anti-Western perspective. That's not just anti-West. It's to the point where he's running defense for China and Russia. He's justifying Russia, a country that oppresses its own people based on their sex, their gender, their ethnicity, doesn't even have free elections. Running defense for them genociding Ukrainians so that they can take over parts of Ukraine. Say, well, there are Russians there, so they have the ability to take back Crimea. Well, that's because Ukrainians were killed through starvation by Russians to implant Russians there to say, hey, we have a claim. It's historic when he's sitting here talking about how it was like okay for China to attack and colonize Tibet or whatever the fuck, or Taiwan, excuse me, historically, or whatever the fuck they were talking about. And his justifier was it was a backwards culture. How is that anything different from what Asmongold was saying? It's an anti-West perspective. It's so anti-West that there's no more nuance there. If it's West, it's bad. And it's just insane. You should criticize Western. You should criticize the West. That's the greatest part about the West, is you're allowed to do that. But it's to a point where there is no nuance or intelligence. It's just West is always bad. That's the problem.
Is because I'm just curious if you are aware of what's going on. Because for me, it's just so personally upsetting to see this happen to someone that I feel like has been so staunchly in the right place with this issue, being brutally attacked by people whom I viewed as
brutally attacked. Get me the fuck out of here.
As being like figureheads of like a progressive movement. People like Ethan Klein, other YouTubers as well.
Yeah, I mean, I heard I have not followed this closely. I've seen and I'm on Twitter less and less these days, but I've definitely seen touches of it on Twitter. And I don't know if it was like last week or when Hasan, had texted me that he found this whole thing upsetting. All I can tell you is right now, it seems like we have entered a stage.
He's being very careful about his about this response, which I can appreciate.
Where
this is obviously a topic to be careful about the way you talk about.
Strong supporters of Israel, ones who I would say have been, really intensely in denial as to what Israel is doing.
That's not Ethan, though. So, you can't make that argument. Ethan is just not that person. That's what are you talking about?
And what it's become. And put aside, the question of for the moment, for the sake of this argument.
Ethan calls Netanyahu a genocidal, bloodthirsty dictator. So something along those lines. How can you use me? How do you make this argument?
Or this situation, the founding of Israel as being highly problematic. Just take this past year in isolation. If there had been no history whatsoever, if this was completely outside of a context, there's just simply no way. And I think the context actually does not make it any more favorable for Israel. I think quite the opposite. But let's just assume for a moment that this only happened on October 7th.
I mean, the history does favor Israel to some degree, no? Like, we have to understand, like, the general history. I mean, like, obviously, historically, that was the Jewish homeland. But taking that aside, right after World War II, when, 6 million Jews were genocided, I don't know if you guys remember that, in the Holocaust, Britain gave the Jews that land to say, like, hey, listen, here's a spot for you to be able to exist. And this is one of the things that, like, some people will try to pretend that they'll try to change history. Because I always hear, like, well, Jews were accepted everywhere. They were accepted all over the Middle East. They weren't. Enough is enough with that, right? The Jews weren't living equally anywhere. Anti-Semitism was rampant everywhere. Nobody joined the fight in World War II to help Jews. Not even the United States. Nobody did. That's not even a real thing. Nobody ever cared. No country. You didn't, like, no, that just wasn't happening. Defensive. Right? So we understand that, like, there was anti-Semitism everywhere, and after that, they're like, we need a space for ourselves, right? Which has been changing. The demographic has been changing there. I believe only like 20% of Israel is Arab, right? They're non-Jewish, my understanding.
What's your step?
But that's why it was founded, right? And absolutely, you'd be like, well, that's fucked up because it displaced a bunch of Palestinians, 100%. And there should be reparations to those Palestinians. I believe so. The same way that the Jews got reparations from Germany, there should be reparations to those Palestinian people, 100%. But it's not like the Jews stole the land, right? The land was given to them at a time where borders weren't explicitly set in a more meaningful way, right? So that's their land. They have the right to defend it, but I don't think with reckless abandon. That's why I said, like, there should be some kind of a reparations in some capacity from Israel to Palestine after a two-state solution is implemented, because I think that they deserve that. But, like, there is a history justifying the defense and existence of Israel.
That Hamas came over, they broke through, they killed somewhere between 600 and 800 civilians.
I thought it was 1,200 civilians.
And then anywhere between 300 or 400 military personnel, which is the case. The idea that this is a proportionate response, the killing of, at a minimum, I mean, I don't think there's...
Hasan has become an L. The thing I don't understand about that kind of sentiment is that, like, if you consider me to be an L now, then I didn't become that. Like, I've always been this L, because...
That is true. I actually agree with Hasan very heavily on this. Thank you for the small gut from Robert Strong.
The one thing is, it's me, I'm the one who called. Yes, I'm the chatter. Yeah. The thing is, like, I'm pretty consistent, especially on stuff like...
Oh, he was just trolling Hasan. Okay.
Like this, right? So
he is consistently anti-Western.
I think that it's not necessarily that I have become an L. I think maybe your opinion changed on the matter.
If that's the guy calling in, he's obviously trolling you. So
that deserves some, I think,
and I think that you just acknowledged that, so I don't know why you're still going on to this tirade that you're...
Reflection. I'm always going to be open-minded. I'm always going to be open-minded to...
That's not true.
People who change their minds. Maybe you changed your mind in the opposite direction, but I will still hold out hope that you will one day be charitable again to the things that I'm saying. I haven't really changed my framework, my perception, my attitude on the way that Israel operates. The only thing that I've turned into an L on is the size of the t-shirts that I wear. I used to wear XXL and now I wear larges. So I guess on that front, you are right.
There's any sort of reasonable individual that thinks it's less than, 40,000 plus people. And that, we know that almost 2/3 of this is women and children. We know that there have been thousands of kids underneath the age of like 2 who have been killed. I don't think there's anybody. Even without the context, this just looks like war crime after war crime.
May I ask a question, Sam?
Yeah.
Sure. I agree. That's always been agreed upon, I think. At least for Ethan. I know Ethan agrees with that. Yeah. Again, the issue is that we can't even, at the very least, say Israel has a right to exist, but some of their actions are absolutely disgusting. That's the problem. That's like literally the only real problem that we're facing here. So
getting to that point, like, I think what's particularly upsetting about this, like, obviously the entire situation.
I am Bullprog called in and talk about their criticisms of you. Okay.
Is incredibly upsetting, and it's one of the most horrendous things that I hope I'll ever have to witness in my life. But I think what's particularly upsetting, like I mentioned before, is seeing people whom I previously thought were fairly progressive become like radicalized against this issue. And
listen,
if you ever say that Ethan is radicalized, you're not worth listening to or talking to. And this is the problem, is that when you're heavily misrepresenting Ethan on this, then you're not worth respecting. Like, there's no reason to listen to what you have to say because Ethan's not radical on this topic. Ethan has been consistently very pro-Palestinian. He just thinks Israel has the right to exist. And if that's radical to you, I don't know how to talk. I mean, you can't be talked to. Okay? But maybe you can be hock to it. Oh, incredible. Very relatable to the children. What a weird thing to say.
That are so much worse with their bad faith arguments. And I wonder if you think it's more about that just hits home for them in a weird way where they're able to suspend their disbelief.
That was the point that I was trying to make. It's like, I feel like we have hit a stage of this now where it is so horrific. It is so obvious that even without...
you can't even acknowledge it.
Even without context, that to remain in denial, you need to go further. Right? Like,
Sam Cedar is so afraid to understand the truth of what's happening here. Just say you don't really know what's going on. Or that you want to guzzle Hasan's cum because you feel like he helps you maintain relevancy or something. I don't know what to tell you.
You can't hunker down. You need to go on the offense. I will tell you this. I had a guy...
The offense being laughing about Jewish people being raped, saying that they're not raped, but then saying it doesn't matter if they are raped. Like, that's just dehumanization of Jewish people. Why would you... What? Like, I wonder if people realize Ethan is ethnically Jewish, and he's going to be offended when people say they don't care about Jews getting raped. I know that's a hot take, but like, what? Like, you ever thought about that? Like, how is that an unrealistic feeling? Hey guys, I support Palestine. I think everything that's happening is disgusting, but I think that Jews have the right to exist, and it's not funny if they get raped. No, that's radical. You're a radical, Ethan. What the fuck? It's like insane. It's insane.
You know, family friend of my father's age who called him this week and asked if I was an anti-Semite.
Yeah. So this is ironically enough the reason why I wanted Sam to talk to Ethan as well, because this is like,
because Sam agrees with me, so he's one of the good Jews.
Getting too into, in a very public fashion, but getting too into like.
Then you should have talked to him privately. I know Ethan reached out to you to talk, and you decided not to take up on that. So
inter-community conversations. Okay, like. You know how sometimes we open the door? You know how sometimes we open the door and peek into black people's business? This is Jewish people's business to a certain degree.
What?
Like the way that American Jews analyze Israel and the opinions that they have. Like this is a inside baseball conversation almost. Like I understand why that chatter is frustrated because he's like recognizing the cognitive dissonance demonstrated by people who he recognizes were progressive, who have like gone through a genuine attitude change, right? And
Ethan hasn't gone through an attitude change. What are you talking about?
And yet that attitude change has like limits in terms of the analysis. I think that it's just slightly parasocial. I don't think so. Because like
what?
I have two different camps here, right? I have like hardline anti-Zionist Jewish friends who are very close friends of mine, as you guys know, who I love and have so much respect for.
Oh, you know what it is? Okay, I think I figured out why people are saying Ethan is radical. Because Ethan is trying to reclaim the term Zionist. That's what it boils down to. And I think that, like, for a lot of people that are looking at the situation, they're so hung up on the term Zionist that they're not listening to what Ethan is saying. Because what Zionism really means, fundamentally, what is just that, like, you think that Israel has the right to exist, but it's been turned into like it's been turned into a point of like, oh, you hate Palestinian people. You're basically a Nazi. That's what Zionism means to people. And Ethan is trying to say like, no, that's not what it means. It just means that like, I think that the Jews have a right to exist. And I think that that's what everything is getting caught up onto. Who
have already had these opinions very publicly for a very long time. And then there are a lot of young Jewish Hasanabi heads that I talk to who have basically gone through this journey into anti-Zionism, and that the communal attitudes that are reflected back at them, like the push and pull, basically, of your own personal convictions on this matter versus the way that your immediate family members treat you, and your sense of community basically being robbed from you because of your difference in opinion on this matter, because of how many of these communities are built around the concept of like defending Israel. I think that's a real issue. Sense of community, Lamau? No, I mean, it's true. What do you mean? You can't say that, like, sense of community, Lamau. There are plenty.
I mean, you know, to give Hasan a little credit, this is a rather empathetic point that he's making. I mean, if you give him you got to give him a little credit for that. I don't know. I don't think that this is, I mean, look, I might have to sit on this talking point for a second. All right. I might have to sit on this talking point for a second. Because on the one hand, I don't know that Ethan is going through that as an issue, where he's having his very, maybe more conservative family watch him and go like, hey, it seems like you're anti-Jew. On the other hand, maybe that is part of the pressure that he's going through. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I have to like sit on this for a little while. I can't give you an instant response. You know, I do think that generally this is a bit dismissing of Ethan's reasonable perspective. Again, we're talking about Hasan, the person who doesn't care if Jews are raped. I just want you to be clear that that's what he thinks. He said as such. And so I feel like this is the part of this point is a dismissal of Ethan's perspective of just like, well, he's dealing with an intersectional issue where he has potentially has, you know, Jewish family members pressuring him and being like, hey, like, do you hate Jewish people now? Like, you don't do. It's an empathetic point in general. Like, it's not a bad point. I don't know if it's applied here, though. I don't know that it necessarily is applied here. I think this might be a bit of a dismissal against Ethan and his like reasonable points. So, you know, maybe this is a genuine point that he's making, but it's just, I don't think it's genuinely applied or reasonably applied here. So I think it's more of like a dismissal of what Ethan's actually saying, rather than being like, okay, let me listen to what you're saying, what you're frustrated by. It's more of like, you really just seem to be upset because you have public pressure at home saying that like, oh, you must be like anti-Semitic or something because you support Palestine. But he's been very pro-Palestine for a very long time. So
plenty of anti-Zionist Jews who there are plenty of anti-Zionist Jews who literally are just like, dude, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, you have Hillel on campus, you have all these like Jewish groups on campus, and they,
well, yeah, you have Jewish groups on campus being discriminated against in the United States. Yeah,
straight up are like, oh, are you anti-Israel? You're a token. Get out of here. Like, you get excommunicated like a Mormon. To be clear, I've been pro-Palestinian since I
mean, people have like, there's been like legitimate hate rising up drastically in the United States against Jewish people. So I don't think it's fair to just make it seem like it's a one-sided issue where it's like, oh, the Jews are the ones that are like, oh, they're just upset because of the communities going away. There's like legitimate hatred of Jewish people going on right now.
Since I did Birthright Unplugged at 19, I'm 33 now, but it's upsetting because I saw firsthand the propaganda. Yeah. No, I'm talking specifically about like when I go to the encampments and stuff and I talk to the students there, one of the most common things I heard from Jewish students at the encampment was like, you know, you basically don't have the same like community resources all of a sudden, because like it's just, they take that shit away from you. You're like not a part of it. You know, you have to be pro-Israel. And I feel like that's a frustrating situation.
It's interesting that he's not bringing up the fact that on a lot of these campuses, it's like justifiable to hate Jewish people. There's like a huge issue with that, especially last year. I like the height of everything that has been going on. So again, it seems like he's only has empathy for Jewish people who are willing to put aside being hated on just for their fundamental existence, despite the fact that they don't support Israel. Like it sounds like it's not. It sounds like he only likes Jewish people who hate themselves enough to support everything that he has to say, like the continuous dismissal of Jewish people being attacked. Like, it's okay to be a Jewish person who believes that that Palestine is a victim to some extent, but that Israel has the right to exist. And that when some people hate on you for being Jewish, it's okay for you to get upset about it. Like, oh, hot take. Thank you for the 11-month small gut from Yoshi's Vinyl. Finally, the best new drama of the year. I guess so. It's something, right?
Situation, and I haven't been able to find it like a good.
I wish it wasn't Israel-Palestine shit, frankly, but it is what it is.
Solution to that at all when people ask me that question.
But I am fired up, okay? As an ethnic Jew myself.
I do understand how that would be. I can understand how that would feel. That sense of isolation is going to be something that is damaging to your psyche for sure. Like, I get that. I don't know. This is 100% going to be clip chimped. Wait, what? Well, I didn't say anything. I did not say anything even remotely inappropriate here. I'm talking about my own personal experiences talking to anti-Zionist Jews that are Hazara heads at college.
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really think that he talks to a whole lot of anybody, to be honest with you, but
encampments, like if people clip this out of context to say that this is anti-Semitic, then so be it. Like, I've been getting called a terrorist every goddamn day. I've been getting.
Well, I mean, you are. You had a Houthi terrorist on your stream, running defense for him, calling him an anime pirate. And you literally putting terrorist propaganda on your stream. Like, these are things that you have done. You are a massive terrorist sympathizer, just to be clear, but okay.
Called an Islamist fundamentalist terrorist every. I think the best phrase to describe the thing that myself and a lot of other fellow Jewish Hasan heads is internalized shame. And it's something that I struggle with every day. I literally feel ostracized by my Jewish friends every day because of my beliefs. I think the best phrase to describe it is internalized shame. Like, I don't think you should feel shame. I think that is the social conditioning, right? I think that as a Jewish person, you should never feel shame about the actions of Israel. You should.
Why? What? That I don't know if I agree with that. It's okay to feel shame about the actions of Israel. In fact, if you love Israel as a Jewish person, you should feel shame in the way that Israel's acting. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm very confused.
Never ever feel shame about the actions of Israel, because it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you whatsoever. I understand where it comes from. I think it literally comes from like all of the social conditioning from early adolescence.
There's nothing wrong with like productive shame, being like, yeah, I don't support what like I have shame in the way that America interacts sometimes, like the shame that with way we treat our veterans, because I love this country, and it's a pathetic shame that we act the way that we'll do as a country. It's okay to be productively ashamed of your country.
Stages in your life, and how like that sense of community and almost like a higher national religious understanding in the form of like Zionist ideology has substituted maybe some of the practices that you could normally feel that you normally would feel is a part of your culture. But I don't feel shame. I just feel dismayed that people who raised me aren't living by their own teachings is very upsetting. Yeah, you should never ever in a million years feel shame. If you're an American Jew, you should never ever feel shame towards the actions of Israel. I will never
towards or about. This is just a stupid point to me.
Never allow it. Zionism is woven into Jewish communities from a very young age. It was taught to me at Hebrew school and amongst the word of mouth. Yeah, exactly. But once again, this is why I always talk about this issue. Like, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm sure that they do teach some kind of Israeli-centric perspective, just like I'm sure in Palestine they teach a very Palestinian-centric perspective, right? Like that's how the histories are going to be taught, and neither side is accepting the pure nuance of what's going on. Just to be clear,
I think a lot of people understand when
this is something that does. I mean, this happens in every country. So
I separate Zionism and Israel from Judaism across the board. I'm doing this because I see what is going on. Okay, I'm doing this one because it's the truth. Zionism is totally separate from Judaism. It does not matter if your local rabbi says that it isn't. Okay, it doesn't matter. You can voluntarily adopt this ideology because you think that this will, time will pass, and you can use this as a deflection to be like, oh, well, every Jewish person is ideologically and religiously tied to Israel. It doesn't matter. This is what's taught in Hebrew school or whatever. But like, and it's a part of my Jewish identity. It still doesn't matter because you are not recognizing that you are teaching people something that is wrong. And not only is it wrong, but it's also causing people to associate Israel's actions with Judaism when it is so far removed from Judaism, almost antithetical to the values that at least I have learned.
So yeah, I think I'm right. Where like, I think the entirety of this conversation is completely centralized around the term Zionism, rather than like what Ethan's perspective actually is. We're getting caught up on like what definition of Zionism we want to operate with. Do we want to operate with the definition of Zionism that means that you're allowed to kill Palestinian people indiscriminately? Which, no, Ethan obviously doesn't operate with that. Or the perspective of Zionism of like, hey, we have the right to exist. Or from Ethan's perspective, they have the right to exist as a people. You know, that's it. I mean, like, not for nothing, but when you have people on the left constantly justifying the from the river to the sea anti-Semitic dog whistle, that's about killing all Jews and getting them out of that area in general. I can understand why people will be like, hey, like, we have the right to exist, right? We shouldn't be genocided and raped either, right? Like, it's not okay. It's not okay to downplay our suffering as well. So, because that's what it is. Like, the river to the sea is an anti-Semitic dog whistle. What river and what sea? The river and the sea on either side of the country, or the area, excuse me, of the border. That's saying it's an anti-Semitic dog whistle to say get rid of Jews. So,
about Judaism and Jewish culture and Jewish history. That may be a point of contention, though. Do you have the right to make that distinction as a non-Jewish person? Yeah, I understand that. I understand when people go, people try to do like, well, it's, my own ideology, my own choice, that type of thing. It's not because of Israel. It's because I'm shamed by my community for not being pro-Israel. I know this is a long shot, but I would also be more than welcome to guest star one day to talk about my upbringing and the constant struggle of being someone who is Jewish and anti-Israel. I know you've talked about this a billion times, but I still be open sometime if you want. I'm pretty sure.
Hasan, let me hit guest star.
Megaphonics will also be more than glad to do so as well. Yeah. I hate how insane everyone has become. It's impossible to talk to family I used to be friends with on holidays. I've seen too many dead babies. I literally burst out at any of my family when they bring up Israel. Like, I want my grandparents in Haifa dead. It's my fault for seeing Palestinians as humans. Yeah. But like, Sam himself is personally talking about his own experiences. Like, people think people in his own community, in his own immediate circle of friends, is like looking at him and assuming that he is like anti-Semitic for his opinion on Israel. And it's a very weird situation because, like, when people say white people are under attack in America or Christianity is under attack in America, we all understand that that's right. That is the oppressive group trying to do a reverse racism narrative. But with anti-Semitism, there is real anti-Semitism. There is actually a sense of marginalization that is valid. There is actually a genuine impact of anti-Semitism that is a canary for fascist ideology. So
yes, absolutely, I agree. So stop downplaying Jewish oppression by laughing about Jewish people getting raped. This is the biggest problem. Like, this is where when you're sitting here and Kamala Harris is like, yeah, there were rapes that would happen against Jewish people. That's the unfortunate reality of war. It's a terrible reality. It never should have happened. But for Hasan to just not acknowledge that existence of that's the problem. That is the fundamental downplaying of what's happening. Like, you can't pretend to be sympathetic and empathetic to Jewish people when you are consistently downplaying any struggle Jewish people go through. That's the problem, right? Like, you have these two worldviews where, like, well, yeah, I know that some like he'll talk to Amazon, be like Asmongold, and say, I know some of the culture in Palestine is a little regressive, but they're getting killed, so they don't really have the opportunity to change that. Okay, cool point. But then on the other hand, being like, no, they could have never raped anybody. That just didn't happen. What do you mean? Like, which one is it? Are they radicalized because they're being oppressed so hard, or are they being held to an extraordinarily high standard? Like, which one is it? Like, obviously, you're going to like act incorrectly. When you're being oppressed. That's why they support a terrorist organization in Palestine, like Hamas, because they are radicalized over there, because they're constantly being being shit on. So it's just none of these things make any sense. You can look at things from a micro and a macro perspective and say, micro, these actions are disgusting. Like, Jewish people being killed and assaulted is disgusting. But macro, going like, okay, well, why is this happening? It's like, well, this is very complicated, unfortunately. It's the same thing with like 9/11. Like micro, it's disgusting that we were attacked by terrorists. Macro, what did America do to provoke the attack, right? That's the conversation that needs to be had. But
when that gets diluted with anti-Zionism, in a very nefarious cycle that tries to associate all of the actions of Israel with Judaism, you are literally, without recognizing, telling people something that is objectively false, okay? Just like Saudi Arabia and its actions have nothing to do with Islam, okay? Or the rest of the Muslim world, Israel's actions have nothing to do with Judaism, or, how American Jews or Jews wherever they live in the world and their day-to-day experiences. It has nothing to do with that. It is a state, right? It is a state built around an ethno and religious supremacist ideology that is built on top of an area where there are millions of indigenous people and tens of millions that have been displaced already. It has nothing.
So what do you do about it? Because we talk about this. I mean, like, Israel was founded based on the idea of Jewish people not being, genocided over and over again. That's why they were founded, whether you want to believe it or not. Were there Palestinian people displaced? Absolutely. That's something to talk about. We need to figure out what to do with those people. Again, reparations from Israel to an established Palestine would be great. But what's the solution? Like, I don't understand. Like, that's where I get lost. That's where we have to, like, really just, what's your solution then? Because you're sitting here and saying, like, yes, there were people that are displaced. What do you do? Do we get rid of did the Jews have the right to that land, or do the Jews just get removed from that land? And that's what I don't understand, because he's never particularly clear about this.
It has nothing to do with Judaism across the board, no matter how hard people have packaged it as such. And it always feels like I'm going crazy when people associate it when they are either Jewish themselves or pro-Jewish. Right? It's like hearing straight up a Muslim guy in the Western world be like, claiming that like ISIS is actually good for Islam and that ISIS actually is the true idea of Islam. It's like, what the are you doing? Like, what are you saying?
I mean, you have like terrorists on. I mean, I'm surprised that you'd have an I don't understand. Like, you had the Houthi terrorists on. This idea that you're against what are you? Is ISIS just one of the bad terrorist groups? I don't. It's kind of hard to push this idea that you're against some different groups of terrorists when you platform them and laugh about what they are doing.
That's what it feels like. And I can't. You've made a turn, man. Not a good path. Once again, I have not. Especially on this issue, I have not. You either weren't paying attention in the past, or your opinion most likely changed. Unless you can identify what the...
Well, Hasan's being slightly more empathetic to Jews, so that might be what they're upset about, because, his community hates Jewish people.
Turn is? Unless you can identify in your mind what the turn is, we can't have this, we can't have like a normal conversation. It's just your vibes. In a Twitch chat, it's more nuanced than that. What? You can give some talking points, I suspect, right? Here's another story from Nandre. A little anecdotal though. When I lived in Israel, many of the younger Israelis despise Zionism because they live inside it and saw the garbage effects it has on life. It's why it's such a frustrating dialogue over there. The West is so far removed from it and pushes it so hard. Yeah, that definitely is the other aspect of it too. I'm giving you the opportunity to speak up. What Nandre said, it makes all the worse that Hebrew school teaches us about such a politically fraught and deep topic like Zionism at such a young age, and now tell us it's the Palestinians who indoctrinate their children who hate us, as though hating Palestinians isn't the obvious lesson of Zionist youth lessons. I cannot even reconcile that obvious cognitive...
If Hasan's perspective was like, Ethan needs to stop, trying to, reclaim the term Zionism, but then he took all the other points seriously, we'd be in a fine position. But we're not doing that here. I don't think that Hasan still doesn't understand what Ethan's position is. So this is like the problem.
Cognitive dissonance with people who still believe that even in old age. Yeah, it's just, you can point to...
Yeah, I know. Hasan wants a one-state solution. I saw him talk about that. One-state solution is never going to happen. It's a stupid solution. So just to be clear.
You can point to videos that I have on this topic, ironically enough, with the same exact people that I'm still talking to on the same exact subject matter from like 8 years ago. You know what I mean? That's what's so funny about people being like, wow, you've changed. I have not. You either weren't paying attention to what I was saying for the past almost decade. Your perspective on the matter changed. And now you analyze what I'm saying with a very different lens. Again, it's more complex than can be said in a chat. You were literally asking me for talking points and I refused. What? Okay, so what do you want? You just wanted to chirp? That's what it was? He just wanted the wine. Is that what it was? I would hope anyone would change in 10 years. I mean, if society is unchanging, on a lot of these issues, like why would you expect me to change, my mindset to change? That doesn't make any point. That doesn't make any sense. Yes, I've been consistently now for more than a decade and even beyond that, but very publicly, more than a decade, been pro-immigration, right? Pro-reform, rehabilitation over incarceration when it comes to the criminal justice system. I have, and none of those structural problems have gone away. I have been very critical of policing as an institution in this country. That has not changed, if not only gotten worse. So, and with respect to Israel, it's not like Israel 10 years ago was different. It was still an apartheid. And it still is. Like my core values and the way that I understand the world have not shifted dramatically for most people, not just you. These people just started paying attention, not you. Yeah.
And it's like, wait a second. First off, I'm not saying anything now that I haven't been saying for a year. And I've been critical increasingly over the years, to be fair. But starting in 2004.
Yeah, he's like legitimately strawmanning the argument. Ethan constantly criticizes the IDF. I don't... You know, this is one of the tactics, though, I think, from Hasan, is he sounds reasonable right now. But we're talking about Ethan, and he's not correctly or accurately portraying Ethan's perspective, so it's not really real. He's just pretending that he's just changing the argument that was said in the first place. So this isn't really a particularly meaningful criticism here, because he's just making up the argument, who he's arguing against, rather.
When we did the show on AM Talk Radio, we had the Israeli embassy contact our show, after our first segment about Israel, which was in, second month of doing the show, because they wanted to refute our points. I mean, we were critical of Israel. I think I
just denounced terrorists. I do. Your voice speaks loud. Do with that.
You don't, though, because you had a Houthi terrorist on and you were running terrorist propaganda. You're playing like the theme song of a terrorist group. What are you talking about? You don't denounce terrorism when you're running defense for terrorists. What are you talking about?
But you will. I denounce terrorists every day. I denounce.
No, you don't. You have terrorists on your show, on your platform.
Terrorist state of Israel every day.
Okay, there it is. Just Israel's a terrorist. Gotcha.
I denounce America's actions that are state-sponsored terror every day. Every day.
More critical.
What about outside of that? What about other terrorist organizations?
As I've learned more about,
Okay.
People are still people.
Only what he would consider Western terrorism. Nothing else. Only the West is bad. That's why it's okay for what China does. It's okay for what Russia does. Russia can fucking kill a bunch of Ukrainians. That's okay. Because now it's their land, even though they've implanted Russia's. This is him.
People, right? Like they're still human beings. Whatever kind of sticker you associate with them does not change that dynamic. People understandably have a desire to live free. Okay? That is a normal human desire to have. If you understand that the standard of violence is set by the larger, more powerful party, which in this case would be the settler colonial country with nuclear arms.
Okay.
That are getting endless.
They're not. I mean, they're not a colonial party. I'm just not gonna. I mean, they were given that land at a time where like lands weren't defined. I don't know what else to tell you, dude. I mean, where do Israeli people go when that's what your take is? What do they do? What does Israel do? Hasan is dog whistling that Israel doesn't have the right to exist. So, like, I don't really know what to tell you at this point.
Less amounts of funds and weapons from the largest superpower on the planet historically, then you have to recognize that
it wasn't us, it'd be Russia or China, and they treat their people like shit, so I'd rather it be us.
The overarching harm, the larger harm, is always still coming from Israel. Israel is setting the standard of violence. The Nat Turner rebellion, albeit incredibly violent, which included white people being slaughtered in their bedrooms, you know what I mean? Did not change the morality of chattel slavery. It didn't. Just like the ANC's actions did not change the morality of the South African apartheid. When the dust settles, you will not look back at these situations, at these acts of violence resisting against, no matter how abhorrent they may be, okay? And October 7 had a tremendous amount of abhorrent acts of violence.
Okay, but you downplay them. You say that they didn't exist, so I don't believe what you're saying.
Okay? Specifically against civilians. When the dust is settled, if there is truly a progressive slant to history, you will look back at that as a dark moment in history, but ultimately the much larger harm will be accurately pointed to and the much larger issue will be in the hands, the larger responsibility will be in the hands of the settler colonial entity. The dust will never settle in this conflict. You're wrong. You're wrong on that too. No, the dust will settle on this for sure. Because I don't believe that history magically has a slant towards progress, but I do look at history and recognize that the normal condition for humans is to collaborate with one another rather than being in a constant state of war, as evidenced by the European collaboration that we now take for granted, despite the fact that not that long ago, they were warring with one another, right? It's not optimism. I'm just simply looking at the way history has worked, okay? People who have killed one another for centuries now collaborate with one another, and it's not even a question. And we take that collaboration for granted. We assume that that is the normal condition. The other thing that I also know is that this level of violence is inherently unsustainable, okay? This level of violence that Israel is dishing out to every single one of its neighbors and to territories that it currently illegally occupies is completely and utterly unsustainable. That's just...
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Ethan agrees with these things. So who are you talking to? When this is supposed to be the Ethan response video, who is it that you're referring to? When Ethan agrees with most of these points, he just thinks that Israel has the right to exist, while also thinking that the Israeli government, specifically Netanyahu, is a fucking war criminal. Who is this? So who is this to? These are all points Ethan would agree. You're not having he's made up a fucking a conversation. He's made up who he's talking to. None of this is relevant to the conversation in any capacity. So
that's it. Fascism is inherently a suicidal ideology. It is constantly seeking out an outgroup at the behest of protecting an in-group. History is riddled with examples of ultranationalist ideologies self-destructing, including, but not limited to, Nazi Germany. Its rise and its fall. Israel is now, due to these last 12 months of endless, unlimited genocide, a complete pariah state, not only by the third world, the global south, the developing nations, which always saw it as a colonial apparatus, but also now the first world, Western nations and their populations, especially younger populations in the West, recognize the reality. They can see right from wrong. This creates a shit ton of pressure. Israel cannot maintain itself as a Western adjacent nation, as a tourism destination, as a destination for academics to go and visit, as long as it keeps up this level of unlimited violence.
I agree. There you go. Ethan agrees too. That truly has nothing to do with the conversation Ethan is bringing up. So
there is a material harm, that a cost that Israel is incurring right now, okay? A debt to all the bloodshed, both on the social front, the social capital that it's...
These are, yeah, of course. Yes, absolutely. This is correct. They've gone to, like I said, Netanyahu has decided that he's going to eliminate all of Hamas, which is unrealistic. And frankly, I don't think it's unreasonable to say a dog whistle of saying we want to kill all Palestinian people. Ethan's not disputing that. That's not what the dispute is about, right? The dispute, this is not what the dispute is about. So
expending, but also on the economic front. Think about your own personal attitude. Think about your own personal journey since October 7, 2023, and how much your opinion has shifted on this matter, okay? Maybe not every single person is going to be as clear-eyed on this issue and recognize, Israel as an apartheid state, but many people have the capacity to still see right from wrong. There's only so much Islamophobic sentiment that can justify...
He's just yapping.
The burned, charred bodies of children that you see on a daily basis.
God.
Anyway, let's continue.
This is ridiculous.
Over the years, more critical of just sort of like of Zionism per se. But the point is, I think we're at a point where it is so horrific that to...
Hasan is just listening to himself talk while like not even actually engaging with what Ethan was said.
Maintain the denial. One needs to sort of like shift the entire conversation.
Yeah, it's just like Ethan will make a valid criticism about like anti-Semitism, and Hasan will go off on a fucking a rampage about how bad Israel is. It's just like we get it. He's just yapping. What he's saying isn't necessarily incorrect, but it's just not relevant to what Ethan is talking about.
I do not believe that Hasan is anti-Semitic. That has never
that's the
come
weird
up.
thing too. Like,
where does this?
I watch a lot of his streams, and if you're making those types of arguments, it has to be in bad faith or you're at least like clip chimping, as you would say.
I don't know if
I just never have witnessed anything even remotely like that.
I haven't followed this close enough, but I don't know if it's in bad faith as much as it is, at least in the instance of Ethan, that it is very, very difficult for some people who are attached to an idea or certain realities or have family there or whatnot to reconcile what they're seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who literally don't believe that anybody has died in Gaza. They think it's all fake. Watch your step. I mean,
it's infuriating because I've experienced way more hostility and anti-Semitism from fellow Jews than Hasan, Morgan, or anyone who's been attacked this week. I mean, we're not anti-Semitic. Like, humans are intrinsically social beings. Civilization begins when we take care of the vulnerable, and it crumbles when we are violent. Fascism is anti-evolutionary, and progress and freedom is in our human spirit. I agree with that for sure.
The amount of denial, like we're in that era, that phase of the epoch where like it is so hard to deny, even if you can justify.
I've said it a billion times. Hasan, if any point I felt that this chat's room status as one of the safest and best regulated places against anti-Semitism on the internet was in question, I would make it known or leave. I'm still here. I see it. I view the anti-Semitism allegations, smears, not even allegations, the smears in the same vein as I...
Well, it is true, so...
view people saying that I'm transphobic. And sure, there are plenty of people who still maintain this belief that I am transphobic, right? Some trans people online probably think that I am transphobic, right? This is one of the largest trans communities online, It does not matter. It does not matter what people say. This does not change my analysis. This does not change my advocacy. I can't counter a false framing that you have hallucinated. It's a coordinated and targeted smear campaign that is being laundered via this drama. It's completely selfish and bigoted. All of it is in bad faith and it's coming from a very specific corner of the internet. Yeah. I think the dominant American version of Jewish authenticity is deeply cornered into the Zionist paradigm, one where you have to hold your tie to exist in exile, but now in relation to an actually existing Israel. I don't know how to resolve the contradictions between this national existence and humanist Jewish values, or what new Jewish authenticity would look like. I don't know if you can do that while retaining any national framework and what that means for Israeli Jews. I don't. What's the second part of that? Time without an OWO. I know you're not anti-Semitic, but with the right clips, I can understand why some things make some people uncomfortable. I think that's a problem with streaming 8 hours a day for 50 years. Not everyone will understand you to the same degree. Yeah, but the benefit of that, of my streaming 8 hours a day for 10 years, not 50, is that you can also find the actual context in which I'm saying certain things. No second part, I just don't know, is for American Jews to hold those discussions.
Yeah, and it makes him look bad because the context is always bad.
Like,
he constantly says edgy shit for attention and then pretends that, like, oh, you're just being uncharitable. You're speaking, he's not speaking with any level of emotional intelligence, so that's the problem. Thank you for the $20 from church. I honestly think H3 sees Hasan like him. He mentions having to purge his right-wing audience, and he might think Hasan is doing the same, but on the left is probably why he wants to save friends. I don't think that that's true. I think Ethan is fed up with the bullshit because, frankly, Hasan is not trying to purge his audience. He plays into his audience constantly. He had a literal terrorist onto his platform. It's very clear he does not try to purge anything. And what's in any capacity, I think Ethan's finally seeing that, like, Hasan does not care. Hasan is so anti-West that, like, he is anti-Jew. That's really what it boils down to. That's like what it boils down. That's why he's not listening to Ethan's perspective. That's why he let people bully the shit out of Ethan, which ended the fucking podcast. And I don't think Hasan saw any more positivity in having the podcast because he got everything he wanted out of Ethan. I think that's really what it boils down to.
You will never be able to convince me that American Jews cannot arrive at this point if there are Jews in Israel who recognize it and are anti-Zionist, like Time Without an OWO. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. I know what it's like to grow up in an ultra-nationalist culture, an ultra-nationalist country. You know what I mean? I know what it's like. It takes a lot of resistance, resilience, intellectual curiosity to overcome things that people take for granted. One of the best things about America, I guess, one of the kind of weaknesses about American nationalism is that they're so hyper-focused on their treats that it's like much easier to examine this kind of thing, especially when paired up with the lack of interest in creating or cultivating this like national mythos in the United States of America, because like we care more about capitalism and upholding that than we do about like having some ultra-nationalist movement. If you're not willing to look up the context of the criticism about you, do you realistically expect your detractors to do that for you? Yeah, no, I know the context of the criticism.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't watch the context of the criticism. He won't even listen to his own friend talking about the problems that he's having.
I know where it's coming from. I've heard it a million times over and I've addressed.
Yeah, see, he's not. He's decided. He's like, I know where it's coming from because I'm deciding that it's just Destiny. That's really what he's saying here. That's why he keeps bringing up Destiny. That's why that's what it comes down to. He's not taking Ethan seriously because he's deciding that Ethan has basically been psyoped into thinking the wrong thing about his perspective, when Hasan is literally bringing like Houthi terrorists on and running defense for like playing like actual terrorist propaganda on his stream. Like that's really what it boils down to.
Addressed it a million times over, and I think it's bad faith in general. So it's kind of silly to hyper focus on it. What I also find really funny is that like it's literally packaged clip chimps, and then people turn around and go, why won't Hasan address these bad faith smears that are directly antithetical to his values and his track record on this issue, right? Why won't they address that? And then when I even remotely address it, people turn around and...
Like, even in this conversation, he's changed Ethan's perspective and decided it was something completely different. Like, that's the entirety of his strategy here, so...
Clip something else out of context to only extend the conversation. It doesn't feel like a productive...
At what point is it not out of context anymore? It's just like, what if none of us actually know what Hasan means, and maybe everything that he's saying is true? Like, you know what, this isn't my true perspective, and people got me out of context. You think that maybe at a certain point, you're the reason why it's out of context? Maybe you just have no fucking idea how to communicate with people. And that's the most charitable interpretation, is that you don't know how to communicate correctly and effectively, and that's it. Like, what if it's that, Hasan? What if you're just not being as thoughtful as you should be in the way that you communicate your perspective? What about that? Maybe there is some truth to the way that you're communicating. Maybe if you learn to communicate better, you'd have a better time with you. I don't know.
Thing to do. There are videos out there with millions of views.
Say for the sake of argument.
There are, Chatter put some effort and corrected this. Just a quick reference point to what Hasan actually believes versus the lies. One, Hasan enables anti-Semitism to be commonplace on Twitch. Yeah. No, anti-Semitism has no place in the leftist movement and has never had space.
I mean, he literally just he literally justified the Judah Arab tier list. So yes, he is okay with anti-Semitism.
The leftist movement. Oh wow, this is like a
even if he doesn't realize it's anti-Semitic, he's a useful idiot. That's your best argument. And frankly, I put more agency onto Hasan. He's a grown fucking man.
Massive effort post. Holy shit. Yeah, it's the why don't you respond to the criticism Innuendo Studios video
Does a reasonable moderate ask
why don't you respond to criticism? There's a lot going on in that question, more than is immediately obvious, and it's worth understanding.
I watched this video to justify why I, a political commentator who goes on to Piers Morgan to debate, doesn't need to debate my perspective. Makes a lot of sense, man.
Anyway, there are smear videos of me on every single issue that I have extensively logged countless hours on. Transphobia, white supremacy. Though I guess the one thing that they haven't smeared me on is like that I am not sufficiently like pro Middle Eastern population. That's the one thing. But we'll get there was that too. People were saying that I was not sufficiently pro Palestine because I drink Coke on stream. You know,
I mean that's a fair argument though. If your whole thing is that like the IDF is so horrible and terrible, or Israel's so horrible and terrible, why aren't you properly protesting? You'll sit here and you'll sow division between Israelis and Palestinians, but you won't like, hey, what if I just accurately protest in the way that I'm advocating for? Oh, okay.
So I guess even that exists out there in the ether. Every single thing that is readily available for all to consume on my YouTube page, on the many VODs, thousands and thousands of hours logged on every single issue. It is out there for you to see. You can find it on your own. If you have any real questions or concerns, you can figure it out. If you're like, is Hasan personally deeply invested in the success of a Shia militia group? Like, does he really like Hezbollah? Or am I getting...
I just think it's interesting that you rally so harshly against Israel, but you can't even not drink soda. Like, you can't even do the bare minimum of actual activism. According to you. I think that's just fucking hilarious.
Manipulated into a false framing on the matter because he dares to explain the context in which Hezbollah exists or is seen by the broader population. That's it. A question you must ask yourself. At the end of the day, the existence precedes essence. I think we can have those unresolved conversations about identity and admit we don't have the full answers, also while maintaining full determination in our pursuit for human justice. I struggle with my Jewish identity all the time, and at the same time, it's true for every one of my Israeli and Jewish anti-Zionist friends, but that's never stopped us from believing in a free Palestine. Yeah. I think it's very different, though, as an American Jew to recognize Israel being bad, even though Israeli anti-Zionists are literally on the ground. We are being pounded with propaganda about Israel, but we can't actually see it. Just like how you wouldn't see the ads if you're subscribed. I have to rely on you and other on-the-ground journalists to see what's actually going on while Israelis can just look at right in front of them. Well, this is something I'll be looking forward to when I'm not running ads any longer, okay? If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. Opponent of the majority report made a great point that when these people analyze the terrorist groups are fighting, it's viewed as apologia, but when Western violence is put into the context and justified, it's normal. Yeah. Like, this is what I mean. The Ordinary Gamer made a video about you today. Like, dude, come on. Come on. I love how people that want...
Did the Ordinary Gamer make a video about him?
To defend Israel will always be like, it's complicated. Let's not talk about it. Let's not say anything.
That's not what people are saying. It is complicated. It's more complicated than Israel bad, because Israel has the right to exist.
And then... like, guys who invest all of their time and effort into DEI initiatives and video games or whatever are now making hit pieces, and now I have to take that shit seriously? Like, get out of here. Why am I supposed to talk to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about? How am I going to sit here? Like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and listen to every drama farming centrist YouTuber with a...
This guy still hasn't admitted that he was wrong when he justified Russia genociding Ukrainians and implanting Russians to say that they have a claim to some of the Ukrainian land. And you want people to have any level of credibility for you? I don't understand.
Alt-right adjacent crowd that they are desperately trying to capture the attention of every single time someone makes a YouTube video. Like, stupid. Like, let's be serious, man. Come on. Just a quick reference point to what Hasan actually believes versus the lies. 1, Hasan enables anti-Semitism to be commonplace on Twitch. No.
Come on. Anti-Semitism has no place in the leftist movement. It has never had a space in the leftist movement. The leftist movement is, first and foremost, comprised of revolutionary Jews to begin with, okay? It was literally attacked as a Jewish plot, as a Jewish conspiracy. That's what the Nazis said. That's why the first people they threw in the concentration camps were socialists. It is a very dangerous prospect to make this conflation, which serves the interests of anti-Semites. It sometimes feels like, especially for Christian Zionists, okay, that they have no fear in Nazis whatsoever. I know that Jewish ultra-Zionists still understandably fear Nazis, neo-Nazis and fascists, but I am afraid of this wave of propaganda turning people's opinions and dropping them from being understandably fearful of the statistical probability that if they do withstand some kind of anti-Semitic action, it will be in the hands of a neo-Nazi rather than a Muslim person, okay? But the other side of this also is very frustrating. A chatter said, what about anti-Islam? What about Islamophobia and actions such as Islamophobic actions? We do not have a good enough mechanism, unfortunately, in the United States of America, which has in the past 3 decades made Muslims globally their major enemies in an effort to justify their blood and soil propaganda and imperialist actions in the Middle East. So there is no mechanism to truly figure out exactly what level of anti-Islamophobia or what level of Islamophobia exists in society right now. There was a...
Damn, that's crazy. I guess I precogged all this. That's why it's so funny when people say, Hasan, why don't you respond to this? Why don't you respond to that? The f am I supposed to do? I responded to it months before it became an issue for you, I guess. That's why I always laugh when people say, Hasan, your opinions have changed. No, they haven't. Hasan denies it happened on October 7th. Hasan.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck? I thought this was supposed to be a response to Ethan. Why is this just like rambling about not Ethan's perspective on the topic, which is just, hey, I think Israel has the right to exist. Again, like, this is what it is. We've overcomplicated this. Hasan, instead of responding to what Ethan's actual criticisms are, of like, hey, listen, you bring terrorists on your platform, you laugh about Jewish people getting raped, you don't think it's seriously, you don't care at all, and you know, you seem to dog whistle that Israel doesn't have the right to exist. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, it's bad to kill people. Yeah, no shit, thank you. We understand that. Like, Ethan agrees with you on everything that you're saying, but you're not responding to his actual criticisms.
Hasan laughed at Kamala bringing up October 7th. No, he doesn't. Explain something. Sexual assaults are a routine part of atrocities during war. It can
yes, this is true.
Happen, and it has happened time and time again, which is...
This is true. This isn't Hasan's actual take, though. On his actual take on Israeli people getting raped is downplaying it and laughing about it.
So... time and time again, which is why there's a likelihood.
If that's what he said in the first place, nobody would be outraged about his perspective.
It could have happened on October 7th. New York Times, the narrative of systematic that were conducted by Hamas on October 7th. The New York Times has absolutely made up their minds ahead of time before the story ever published and refuses to do their journalistic due diligence. They do engage in State Department propaganda notoriously and historically. Which is why there is a likelihood that it could have happened on October 7th. This is a position that I've maintained since October 7th. There were plenty of atrocities that occurred on
It's not the position he maintained on October 7th because he's literally sitting there laughing when Kamala Harris is talking about it. So I don't know. He's not being truthful here, but okay.
October 7, okay, that are akin to acts of terror. Because on October 7, it wasn't just the Palestinian brigades, a coalition of resistance forces that includes Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PFLP, DFLP, and many others. It was also, once the barrier into Israel was broken, there was also criminal elements that broke through said barrier. But as far as we saw, given how much of what happened on October 7 was filmed, including the actual real atrocities of Palestinian forces executing civilians, shooting at porta potties and the like during the...
Thank you for 5,000 DJ Tribe, bro. Just said Mudahar's anti-woke gaming channel that's constantly talking about DEI and everything else with foam with the mouth. Yeah, that's true. He doesn't really do that. Thank you for the $2 from Dummy Durs. Hasan hates FNAF, so I hate him. Okay. Well, I hate FNAF too, okay?
the Nova Festival and many other circumstances, the likelihood that there wasn't firsthand accounts on rampant sexual assault in the way that the original coverage entailed, that didn't meet the muster, like the normal standard of the New York Times reporting, there are some reasons for it, because this was, for all intents and purposes, as far as the Palestinian resistance goes, a operation that was, in their own words, much more successful than they had predicted. They thought that there would be a lot more resistance overall, and that once the dam broke, there was a ton more violence than a quick in and out operation where they would be able to capture some prisoners of war as hostages in an effort to bargain, yeah, so there's that.
This is not the take that people are upset with in any capacity. This isn't the take. It's the laughing when we're talking about people getting sexually assaulted and saying that you don't care if Israeli people are sexually assaulted. I don't really understand. He knows that this is not the take that people are upset with. This is not the take people are upset with at all. What he says there is a meaningful, reasonable perspective that he has. That's not the take people are upset with. They're upset with the provocative version of the take that you push.
Hasan is doing bigotry of low expectations. Hasan expects nothing from this kid, Yemeni genocide survivor, no decency, no quality. Consistent on reactionaries. Okay, because no one is born a reactionary. No one is born a conservative, but let's say someone is conservative here. They automatically teleported and adjusted the material conditions of conservatism in Iran. They would be no different than the mullah. No one is born a conservative. But let's say someone was someone that is conservative here.
There's actually some research that suggests that some of our political leanings are biological. Something interesting.
Automatically teleported and adjusted to the material conditions of like conservatism in Iran, they would be no different than the mullahs. That's my opinion. Like, and not only that, but in terms of the Yemeni kid, like I went into that interview, and I've repeated myself quite a bit, right? I went into that interview assuming that there's a likelihood that he might be Houthi. Okay, a Houthi rebel.
Yeah, he was a Houthi terrorist. It was known, and then you ran defense for him, and you continued to do so.
A Houthi pirate, right? Aside from the memes and whatnot, that was my overarching assumption. There is a likelihood that this person, because at the time we had seen him.
And why were you asking him his favorite One Piece show, like about his favorite anime show? This doesn't make any sense. You did not. You were not acting cavalier at all in that. Okay, whatever. I don't even know why I'm taking this seriously anymore. This is ridiculous.
Like, going towards the ship and whatnot.
This is why I hate like engaging with Hasan's like bullshit. He's a fucking moron.
Dingy.
Like he's a dishonest piece of shit. Even if you agree with some of the overall arcing points that he might make, he's still a dishonest scumbag.
I did not know there was a tourist destination in Yemen, basically, that you can go to.
Weren't they like laughing about how the fucking Houthi terrorists would like drug some of the prisoners that he had? Like I don't understand.
Take photos of or whatever. Having said that, however, in the interview, I wanted to first and foremost humanize him. Okay.
Wait, so you thought he was a terrorist, so you wanted to humanize him? That's number one. Okay.
And make him feel comfortable, despite the communications barrier that we had, the language barrier that we had. And beyond that, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the background of a person who has experienced only genocide, who was...
Dude, you were asking him his favorite anime show. What the fuck are you talking about? This is such a scumbag reframing of the situation. This is wild, dude. Okay, whatever.
Grown up.
Like, at this point, it's not even worth getting mad about, because he's such a clown. He's such a fucking goober. Oh my god. I was trying to humanize him, so all I did was we just laughed about how he would drug people, and I asked him about his favorite anime, and I didn't really ask him any meaningful questions. Okay,
genocide. Okay,
gotcha,
that is real.
man.
You might not know about this. You might not know about the famine in Yemen. You might not know about like American-backed actions of Saudi Arabia in Yemen, UAE in Yemen. But it still doesn't matter. Like that is a real thing that occurred. Okay,
hey, it's always America's fault, baby. Number one.
Having said that, in that conversation, and many conversations since then, where this person has given interviews to Sky News, for example, he has reiterated the position that he is not a Houthi, that he is simply Yemeni. Like he is simply a person from Yemen, a kid from Yemen, a social media influencer. Okay? If he was a Houthi rebel, for the record, if he was a Houthi rebel, I still see value in interviewing that person. Okay? But I'm not gonna...
You obviously don't possess the professionalism to engage in this. That's the problem. You don't. You shouldn't be the one interviewing people with this that are in this circumstance. That's what I think the reality is now.
I'm not gonna sit here and be like, nah. There's this 19-year-old who has a gun in Yemen, the second highest gun ownership per capita country on the planet after the United States of America.
Yemen is based, dude. What the fuck?
Automatically a Houthi terrorist who is deeply invested in the action.
I'm pretty sure it's known that he is a Houthi terrorist. Just to be clear, when he's putting out things about how we should put spikes through Jews from their ass to their skull, that's the stuff that's the propaganda he was putting on his Twitter. I'm pretty sure we can safely say that he is an anti-Semitic terrorist. No, I guess that's not enough for Hasan, but
of the Ansar Allah movement because people are screaming about it.
He didn't admit that he's a terrorist, so he can't be a terrorist. It's fucking based. Thank you, Hasan.
And I know that the major anger and resentment coming from a lot of people is like, oh, you asked him about whether he watches anime or not. Of course.
Yes, that's a reasonable thing to be angry about.
Yes, like I said, my job, first and foremost, was to understand this person's development. Okay, how
you set the terms for your job. Asking him about his favorite, that's not what you would ask. This is what I'm talking about. That's not what you would ask. If you wanted to get to know him on a deeper level, with the potential idea of trying to, get people to have a better understanding of him in some capacity, you would ask him about what his upbringing was. What was his life like? What is his relationship with such and such group or organization? You wouldn't ask him his favorite fucking anime. This doesn't even make sense at all.
He got to this position that he is in. Houthi, social media sensation compared to Hollywood stars, calls on UK and US to stop this war. In this conversation, the 19-year-old Yemeni has been dubbed Tim Houthi Chalamet and the hot Houthi pirate on the internet for his videos on the Red Sea. Attacks by Yemen's Houthi fighters, officially known as supporters of God or Ansar Allah in Arabic, have been made against Israel and on commercial ships. The Iranian-backed group has defied repeated warnings to stop targeting ships. US and British forces have launched strikes in the area. But Rashid told Sky News he has been posting videos about his experience to show solidarity with Palestine. Through translation, he added, my message is that they stop this war and reassess the situation in Palestine. There are children starving, thirsty, dying under bombardment in Gaza, like a 2-year-old dying from bombardment. Why? Because of the actions of the Zionists. Yemen stood with Palestine and was being bombarded for his solidarity, but this hasn't affected us and we continue to stand by Palestine. He considers himself a media personality, but his main mission is to spread awareness about Palestine. Rashid had to keep setting up new accounts as the previous ones on Facebook would get shut down. All of the Yemeni people are
because he was putting things up about how Jewish people should die.
with Ansar Allah and with Palestine, even if I appear with arms, all Yemeni carry arms. It's normal, he added. The reason why he answered this question is because they probably asked him, even though it's not mentioned in this article, whether he was a Houthi himself or if he was Ansar Allah, where he says all the Yemeni people are with Ansar Allah, as in he is not a part of Ansar Allah, as he said to me in the interview. Okay?
Wow. Well, he's probably the most honest person. Usually, I take a terrorist word over everything else, guys.
Just so people understand. Just so there is no. Just so people have an understanding.
So I love how so far in this response to Ethan, we still haven't actually watched Ethan or what he had to say. Isn't that incredible?
Of this part is also interesting to hear. Sam talks about the terrorist apologist accusation here.
I said that he had been doing. I think I was like he has been doing worse than apologia for Houthis and Hezbollah or something.
Okay.
And it was taken as like you can't criticize resistance groups.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
and I could go into the examples of what made me recoil, but
this is a different chatter. Context: caller had sent a message a week.
I was going to say that it just seems like a totally different chatter. The original one seemed to love Hasan and want to guzzle his cum.
Before this is bullprog. I assume that's like another content creator.
That's not what I want to do.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I think like, look, it's a nuanced question because undoubtedly,
Sam doesn't need to know anything about the details of like whatever is like Clipchamp or whatever. He might even take what this person is saying at face value. But you know what's interesting about this it ultimately doesn't matter because he knows that when you contextualize any kind of violent resistance movement that is outside of American...
Hasan isn't contextualizing any violent resistance movement. He is championing them. That's why he's having conversations about anime with fucking terrorists instead of having... like, if he had sat there and said, like, okay, what was your life experience like to get you to this point? Like, why do you do X, Y? That would have been different. That's not what he's doing. Okay? But Daryl Davis... a fucking, like, he literally goes around and interviews like KKK members. Nobody's saying that, like, and he humanizes them to some extent. Nobody's giving him the same shit that Hasan's getting. Hasan pushes terrorist propaganda and somehow is able to stay on Twitch. It's as simple as that. He's not trying to recontextualize or having intelligent conversation or possess. He doesn't possess some kind of magical nuance. He's a terrorist sympathizer. That's literally it. He's an anti-West terrorist sympathizer. That's all he does. That's his entire brand. That's it. He, like, takes advantage of angsty little fucking teens that want to hate something because they're upset with their mom because they don't get a cell phone because they're too fucking young for it. Like, that's literally, like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Sphere of influence, you will get terror jacketed. Okay? He knows this because he has been doing this for many, many years. And he has been attacked viciously as well. Most of the time, however, these attacks used to come from the right. Liberals were, at the very least, a little bit more understanding and did not engage in this level of immediate, like, oh, you're a terrorist supporter, you're a terrorist defender.
There is an attempt to define these groups, whether it's, you know, the Houthis or Hezbollah or Hamas, or the Israelis for that matter, in the most absolutist terms. And certainly, you know, you can have terror tactics and be a liberation movement. And people can make, you know, assessments, you know, as to tactics and to efficacy, you know, because people always, you know, make these assessments. You know, the Houthis, I don't think are, you know, I don't think they're role models, as it were. You know, there was value to some degree.
That's what I was getting at.
What's that?
And that's kind of what I was getting at.
Okay, but then...
Okay, so this is like somewhat of a reasonable take. If Hasan had the take of, like, listen, this is some kind of, like, a terror group, but some actions can be justifiable depending on the circumstances, and then having that intelligent conversation, people would be maybe upset. I wouldn't, because, like, okay, that's an uncomfortable conversation, but I'm mature enough to be able to engage in it. That's not the conversation Hasan was having when he had a Houthi fucking terrorist on there asking him about One Piece. That's what it comes down to. Hasan, like, clearly doesn't understand how to act in a professional cavalier capacity. That's what it boils down to.
There is no argument.
Okay,
because I have time and time again talked about this aspect of this, of their civil governance or their domestic affairs or their ideological positioning as being directly at odds with mine. Same with Hezbollah. It is utterly irrelevant in the conversation surrounding their actions against Israel's endless bombing campaign. And this is what I always say. Always. If you look to Hezbollah's, like, ideological position on gay people, okay, or the Houthis' ideological position on gay people, or their actions that they've taken against gay people in Yemen, and you turn around and go, damn, dog, can't believe you're defending that, you're an idiot. I have never defended that, and I will never defend that. The point is, it is utterly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. It is utterly irrelevant because the reason why they're being bombed is not because of their, you know, death campaign or destruction campaign upon gay people or whatever, okay? If you personally believe that Operation Prosperity Guardian is being done to defend homophobia or to fight against homophobia, you are the biggest rube of all time. Hasan Nasrallah is not
I like these arguments, Hasan. What does that have to do with Ethan? Are we ever going to, like... this is like a fucking waste. Holy shit of watching this.
Assassinated by the state of Israel.
Again, this started with talking about Ethan, and we've just consistently talking about things that Ethan is not talking about. This is straw manning his argument. Epic debate term, am I right, guys?
For Hezbollah's actions in Syria. Hasan Nasrallah was not assassinated by the state of Israel for being homophobic. Hasan Nasrallah was assassinated.
Do I think Hasan is literally really this radical, or do I think that he fears his audience? Like, he brought it too far and we'll turn on him like Ethan if he backpedals? No, I think Hasan wants this. I think this is who Hasan is and always has been.
By the state of Israel, alongside PFLP and DFLP leaders who had nothing to do with the cross-border...
it's very clear Ethan's afraid of his audience. Hasan feeds into his audience.
Bombing campaign that was going between Hezbollah and Israel, by the way, but they still were assassinated in that same night because of his position as a figurehead that resists against Israeli bombing campaigns in Gaza. That's it. Not actually irrelevant. It's just that it should be treated as a different issue. No, it is irrelevant in this conversation. It is irrelevant in this conversation, especially in the same vein that, like, if you were to turn around and be like, well, sorry, I don't know what, like, America's opinion on gay people was in the 40s, so I will not talk about, like, their actions against the Nazi regime. That's ridiculous. People would laugh at you if you were like, well, excuse me, America was a segregationist hole in the 40s. So what? Were they the bad guys in World War II? No, they weren't. The only reason why people bring it up in conversations like this is the exact same reason over and over again. They did this with the Taliban. Like, I'm not a fan of the Taliban. What are you, stupid? It's to justify permanent occupation. It is a way to try and be like, well, they're bad guys too. It's like, yeah, sure. Are you fixing it? Or are we the big bad? Yeah, it's like saying British sterilized gay people, so they actually were the bad guys in World War II. America was a racist apartheid regime during the 30s and 40s. Stalin was a racist conservative opportunist who was responsible for Holodomor. The British Empire was doing genocide and doing colonialism for many decades leading up to World War II and during World War II. The Nazis were such an insane evil that the Allies are very clearly and correctly viewed as the good guys. Context matters. Exactly. And yes, no, Stalin did have conservative leanings. Let's be real, okay?
Am I afraid of you guys? No, of course not. I don't care. People cry about everything I say every fucking day. Mostly on like Instagram. I have fucking Trump supporters crying, bitching, and moaning because I make fun of Trump on there. And then I have people, every time I talk about Israel-Palestine, they bitch about my fucking perspective here. I don't care anymore. Like, it's, you know, I speak as what I like to think is as sensitively as possible. And if I do speak in a way that's not necessarily cavalier, I try to reorient moving forward. But like, you can only do so much. I'm never trying or asking for people to be offended. I don't want people to be offended. But if they are, like, it just is what it is. I don't speak with intention to offend. And I can sit and rest easy on that alone. That is enough for me. As long as I'm not trying to offend people, you know, if I have a take that might shake people, that's okay. Because I'm not doing it to be provocative. I'm just having my take because that's what my take is.
Hey, calm down. Like, he did. He had a lot of right opinions, especially within the framework of World War II. And he also wasn't the best, wasn't the best governor, okay? I don't think that is a controversial take. See, the reason why we can have this conversation, however, is because now we are having this conversation within the historical framework. Let's continue.
Yeah, I mean, look, there was value.
A lot of stuff going on, and
some of their tactics I found were valuable, right? Like, somebody is at least trying to inhibit and make Israel pay a price that's associated with their
seem like
attacks.
the only people fighting for them. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I totally
but at
get
the
that.
same time, you're exacerbating at one point the starvation in Sudan. Some of those ships are sending, goods and are sending food supplies and aid to Sudan. I mean, so it's not, none of it is black and white. And I think, but certainly, like, the idea that, there's total denial that Hamas was is a liberation movement. People can, I think,
disagree with people can disagree with their methods. Okay, they can, and there has been many thoughtful criticisms of their methods. And
like what? What's one of them?
And even
raping Jewish people.
Historical reference points as to how they evolved into.
Yeah, I mean, it's uncomfortable to hear Hamas is a liberation group because they are a classified terrorist organization. But there is a level of truth to that, as uncomfortable as it is. Again, the Palestinian people have pretty strong support, from my understanding, and that my understanding comes from Hasan because that's what he says. They have a pretty strong support of Hamas, right? It's a radical group. But why is it radical? The reality is because of the oppression that they are facing from Israel. Because like has been consistently said, especially by Ethan, not all of Israel's actions are justified. Again, this is supposed to be about Ethan and his perspective, not about this magical made-up argument.
The violent actions that they thought were appropriate in terms of causing the settler colonial state to incur a penalty for its maintenance of the apartheid. Okay? I don't even...
If only Ethan talked to Cedar, he'd be friends with Hasan again. Yeah, that's stupid though, right? Like, I mean, Hasan is supposed to be Ethan's friend. Why wouldn't Hasan sit down and have this conversation with him? Especially offline, where Ethan wanted to have this conversation. Why would it's being taken online because he won't respond, because he's sitting here, he's running defense for terrorists, all right? And he won't talk to his own friend. He's sitting here laughing about Jewish people getting assaulted. What do you want him to do?
I agree with what Sam said in terms of like Ansar Allah is responsible for some harm in Sudan, but especially considering that one of the countries that also was responsible for the famine and genocide in Yemen is currently also responsible for the RSF doing a genocide in Sudan. Please just say anything about Sudan. I have talked about it before. What do you mean? Then talk about Sudan for once. I have. It's the UAE.
Immoral to kill civilians. People can...
I agree. Just to be clear, it's also immoral to hide your military infrastructure in your civilians. Like, let's not pretend. Like, it seems like Israel and Hamas both have the same value of life for Palestinian people, which is not a particularly high amount of, a high amount. Let's just be clear.
Like I've already said, from an international law standpoint, I think Hamas probably has, more standing than most people give them credit for. I do know that the ICJ are seeking warrants for crimes against humanity, both for Sinwar and I think his number 2 and Netanyahu and Gallant. And I defer to those prosecutions as to the validity of those.
A person asked, like, where is this assessment coming from? I mean, you can Google it yourself, but the End Sudan's War here is from foreignpolicy.com. It's one of those few issues where you can go to foreignpolicy.com and actually see exactly what is going on, because it's one of those few issues where, like, it's our ally doing it, but, like, we don't really have a direct involvement, so we can actually criticize it. Why can't uBlock work anymore? What is happening here? I hate that. How do I... Oh, here it is. Never mind. I did it. I did the dang thing. Sudan civil war, fueled by secret arms shipments from UAE and Iran. Despite denials, weapons inspection... I like that they put Iran in there. Okay, Chrome is breaking it. No, it's fine. It worked. The ongoing crisis there has been reached.
I don't believe that Hamas uses human shields. They do. They always use human shields. That's one of the fucked up problems of it.
Reached a catastrophic proportion. The international community's response remains woefully inadequate. A series of missteps and political maneuvers have undermined efforts to provide meaningful assistance to those in desperate need. And the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, the paramilitary group responsible for much of the violence, has yet to be held accountable for actively destroying the country's food reserves. The situation demands immediate action and a drastic shift in approach from global leaders and institutions. At the core of this failure is the United Nations Security Council's persistent delays in addressing findings from its own panel of experts on Sudan. These findings document credible allegations of the United Arab Emirates' involvement in violating Darfur's arms embargo by supplying the RSF with weapons and ammunition. Furthermore, The Guardian reported that UK government officials have been blocking discussions of the UAE's involvement in the Security Council for months, including after the Labour Party took power in July. So if you want to understand, it is like somewhat associated with a Western leadership refusing to reckon. Western leadership refusing to...
Thank you for the 5,000 from Jack Esposito. What's going on, brother? How you doing? Hey, Papa, when I was in the Middle East with the Navy, one of my best shipmates was a Muslim Arab from Lebanon. He loved America and hated Hezbollah. Incredible stuff, brother. I love that. I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
UAE in, but once again, we rarely ever get our allies in the region to rein it in, seemingly, especially when, you're going to laugh about tonight today. Chatter, I think you should probably watch this. You should probably look at this if you are legitimately concerned with this. This will probably cause you to understand that you are maybe deluded or wrong.
Well, you did laugh about that, but okay.
I like that there is this massive effort post, by the way. Respect. Respect to the person who made that. I don't think that you care about the truth, though. You want to hear about how another person from a different community defends genocide calling into the majority report? No, hold on. Let's just finish this.
And so, I don't want to be rooting on someone who, those prosecutors, neither of whom have been convicted, but, that's not usually what I recommend, is a recommendation to me. But I also think that the preponderance of, on some level, it's just a sheer propaganda war, right? I mean, there's no, like I say, that I have friends of my father's calling to ask if I'm an anti-Semite makes me feel like this is, hey, wait, maybe this isn't just like a straight on assessment of what's going on here. And, and so I can certainly see from a rhetorical standpoint and from a propaganda standpoint, like you don't want to show up at a gunfight with a knife, as it were. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry.
I just say, Bill Preg, I appreciate you calling it. And I want to say, like, I do, like, I feel defensive about what Hasan's going through. And I know so does Emma. And we have a disagreement there. But just generally, I do think there's a tension here. And one thing, a quote from Fred Hampton weeks before he died after a Weatherman riot in Chicago said, "We believe that the Weatherman action is anarchistic, opportunistic, individualistic. It's chauvinistic, it's custoristic." And that's the bad part about it. It's custoristic in that its leaders take people into situations where they can be massacred, and they call that a revolution. It's nothing but child's play, it's folly. We think these people may be sincere, but they're misguided, they're muddleheads, and they're scatterbrained. So, like, generally, I do appreciate all the work you've done out there actually in the streets and seeing this stuff. So yeah, no hard feelings on our part.
Yeah. Well, my closing message that I kind of wanted to get across is that, like, I care about you guys. I care about the rest of the crew. I care about all the listeners, and, like, I just don't want people to burn themselves on some silly stuff. And, like, there are ways to stay on message without.
Yeah, you're right, man. I should. That's a good criticism. Call missing some context. No, it's just like it's such a silly thing, dude. It's such a silly type of criticism coming from someone who's, like, ostensibly on the leftist side of this issue, because it's like what are you talking about? You got primed into believing that, like, I want some kind of, like, Islamist fundamentalism to occur because...
Yes, probably. I think that you don't care. Again, he's so anti-West. I mean, it's like we've said the same thing over and over again.
Of my contextualization of how resistance groups operate. Like, come on. Like,
that's not what you're doing. You're not giving us contextualized perspectives on the way resistance groups operate. You're sitting here and you're justifying, like, you're coming up with a terrorist onto your... You're not sitting there and trying to have a intelligent conversation about, like, the Houthis or one of the Houthi pirates and be like, okay, why are you doing this? What's your upbringing? What is this experience? You're sitting there asking him dumbass fucking questions, laughing, and then putting terrorist propaganda on your platform through, like, fucking, fucking music videos that champion terrorism. What are you talking about?
Policing.
Because we've gotten to the point where, like, if it's anti-West, then it's not bad. That's what Hasan's perspective is.
Saying a genocide is ridiculous. Yeah, he says we should stay on message and then complains about something that happened a year ago. I know. It's like, it's almost as ridiculous as, like, oh, I don't want an adpocalypse to happen, but also I hope it does. Is ridiculous. You want it to happen. You're like demanding that it happens, as a matter of fact. He compared you to some teens at a protest who graffiti kill cops. That's the context. Yeah, except I have also, ironically, criticized people who go to pro-Palestinian protests and then do that where they're like, we're going to kill all Zionists. Like, you live in America, man. You live in the United States of America. Like, what are you talking about? You can't be saying shit like that.
You can say it's other places? Okay.
So,
gotcha.
you know, I understand how passionate people get in these moments and how frustrated people get in these moments, but that kind of LARPing is also ineffective. So on the optics front, I've also regularly talked about that.
It's also wrong. It's also a wrong thing to do. It's not just an optically bad thing to do. Talking about killing people is also wrong. I don't know if you know that, but okay.
Being, especially in the West, not an appropriate method of protest. So that's another part of this equation.
So like, what if it was though? Like, what if it was an appropriate method of protest? Like, what if you thought it was effective to talk about killing all fucking Jews? Like, do you think that that's okay? I don't understand. I don't understand this over, like, you could say like it's optically a bad play, but it's also morally wrong. I don't. Where's that perspective?
Okay, I always say over and over again, you can never be as callous as right-wingers are, and you shouldn't anyway. Regardless, if you were to turn around and compare that to like some random 19-year-old in Yemen posting a similar image, you are insane. Okay, you have to recognize what these people's their lived experiences look like.
We can't, because when you brought the Houthi terrorist on, you just asked him about fucking One Piece. All you did was ask him about One Piece.
Okay, yes, I will always have smoke for someone who grew up in the Upper West Side saying some shit like that.
Instead of talking about his life, like, experience growing up.
Is like, it is immaterial in the grand scheme of things when someone living in Yemen is posting like that. Okay, it's immaterial. Like, it's still wrong, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. You could die at any moment. Okay, it's ridiculous. People have compared this dude that I interviewed 10 months ago at this point, like even before I believe the Houthis were brought back into the terrorist watch list, by the way, even though Brandon took.
Pretty sure that was like right when that happened.
Them off the watch list, but then put them back on to launch Operation Prosperity Guardian, like to Osama bin Laden, you know, the architects of 9/11.
Well, they're taking over ships, so, you know, trade ships that would increase the cost of goods and services, so it kind of makes sense. It's like, especially for poor countries that needed relief.
Come on. Let's just be honest here. Someone in their community are here crashing out and punching at any pro-Palestinian streamers. Yeah. I don't disagree with Bullprog larger point, but the way he connected it back to you was just insane bullshit. I believe their gender pronouns are they, them, as someone corrected me in the chat. Man, why do I get 15-year-old D-fans in my DMs now trying to explain to me about some clip I haven't seen and how you were secretly using Sabra hummus as an anti-Israeli racial slur? God was trying to explain to me, an Israeli, what the term Zabar means and how it secretly has some racial meaning. It doesn't. Genuinely felt like talking to a paranoid schizophrenic. Any idea what they're referring to? I don't know what Zabar means. What is Zabar? I don't even know what that means. I don't think I've ever used that. That is pretty funny though, like telling a Jewish Israeli anti-Zionist whose family is also from Yemen, by the way. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a Christian guy. I'm a white Christian dude in Iowa. And let me tell you, okay, you, my friend, oh, it means, oh, is it Zabar like a different way of saying Sabra? I didn't even know that. Lamau is literally just Sabra in Hebrew. Oh, okay. Like, let me tell you, sir, a Jewish Israeli.
Does this guy pretend to be like Arabic and he doesn't understand these fucking words? What?
Anti-Zionist. Let me tell you what.
He's the whitest guy. You think he's whiter than me?
It's what? Okay. You are actually under fire in this community. You are not recognizing. You are not recognizing the danger that is presented to you, my friend. Zabar is a Hebrew term for Sabra and is historically being used by Zionists to describe this new Jewish archetype of the Zionist era. It's very sociologically charged, but it's not a racial slur. He told me, you're so close. And he said, watch 5 minutes of a Destiny stream.
It sounds like it's supposed to be a racial slur, but I don't know.
Dude, they are so passionate. I just wish that they would use this passion. That's the handle? It's this guy? Oh, no way. Ain't no way. I know who that is. Ain't no way. This is a juicer.
It's so funny because somebody today, it actually is funny. Today, somebody was like commented on my video I posted yesterday, which is up to date from like, you know, from when I reacted. And they're like, oh, you conveniently didn't show the video of Hasan reacting to exactly what Ethan said. And I was like, oh, well, that didn't exist at this time. I didn't say anything to them in my head. I'm like, that didn't exist at the time. They're referring to this, I'm assuming. That's not in here. There's nothing in here. He has not reacted to anything Ethan has said so far. He's just completely misrepresented what Ethan thinks over and over again.
Used to be such a kind chatter and their brain broke from the...
Dude, Arabic and Hebrew are different languages. Listen, shut the fuck up, okay? I'm white. I can make any mistake I want when it comes to other people's cultures. All right?
Juicer fallout. Damn, that's sad, dude. I can't believe they become...
I can be as ignorant as I want. That's my fucking white privilege, dude. Leave me alone.
Much of a boner Chelly fan. Damn, I'm so goddamn parasocial with my own chatters. It's crazy. Yeah, someone fell in the rookie hole, dude. They said that at TwitchCon you were secretly making a racial tier list with Israelis at the bottom. Again, I didn't watch TwitchCon.
Well, that is what happened. He wasn't doing it himself, but that is what happened.
so I was clueless, but who knows? Maybe you're speaking in code, Hasan. He was, however, very kind and just said, I'm trying to help you. Strange experience. Wait, he thinks I was doing a tier list at TwitchCon? I wasn't even a part of that Arabs podcast tier list. What?
Yeah, but you decided to run defense for it.
The level of hallucination at this point is hilarious. Yes, and Sabra was code for Israelis. Yeah, no, it was, I genuinely felt bad. Hasan, dude, I avoided you for so long because of how crazy your haters made you sound, even though I knew I probably agree with you about most everything politically. You got deranged haters, man. I know, but ultimately, you have to remember something.
Me, when I'm a deranged hater, man?
Okay? You have to remember something important. You're here, you know? It doesn't matter. I think in a long enough timeline, given that history does have a tendency to vindicate me on a lot of these issues that I speak of.
I don't think he hasn't been vindicated on a single issue. What is he talking about?
Many people, for one reason or another, will inevitably get to a point where they go, who is speaking out against this inequality that I am experiencing? And considering my track record and my political opinions on every single issue and the long history that I have dedicated to speaking out on virtually every kind of bigotry, every kind of issue, you will inevitably arrive at something you care about. And then you're going to see my coverage on that and go, oh my God, I was wrong. I was so goddamn wrong, just like that one chatter is.
It's going to happen every day, baby.
So what matters is you might have these opinions.
I get just as many people saying that they used to be Hasan fans, but he's fucking psychotic. I don't really think that anything is going to change for the positive for Hasan.
At first, you might be primed into hating me. You might be primed into hating me.
I think that everybody's very understandably worked up with Israel-Palestine, and as time goes on, though, people are getting a little bit less and less worked up, and people are going to realize Hasan is just using this as a way to like sow as much divisiveness as possible to generate as much of a hateful audience as possible, so he can maintain relevancy.
But there is going to be a moment where you see the truth, either through genuine intellectual curiosity or because you want to maybe come in here to hate watch. Okay, and then you're gonna be like, okay, maybe these guys are just lying about this person, and then
all Hasan literally does is just change the. He proposes the boogeyman argument of like who he's what he's actually talking about, and goes, see, this is not my this is not my opponent's argument, but I'm going to pretend it is. See how reasonable I am? It's like, yeah, but that person probably already agrees with you on that topic. So
once you start recognizing that those people that are lying are so malicious and so saying.
Again, he hasn't responded to a single Ethan talking point so far in this entire discussion that's supposed to be about Ethan.
And you will probably look at other things that I talk about in a very different way. Once that bond of trust is broken, once the way that I was presented to you does not meet the reality, when you see it with your own two eyes, you will inevitably be more charitable.
Taking stances out of reflexive reaction or spite, and because like fascists will exploit your emotions and use your reactions against you. And we have to be careful about giving in to cynicism, because that's when we start letting go of hope and turning towards darker paths. And, a community might start saying something.
I'm very afraid of darker paths, guys.
Something ironically, and soon enough people are just saying it, and the memes become what they actually mean. Like what
we haven't been memeing enough, okay?
Happened with 4chan and Pepe and all that stuff. So we have an adage that we use at George Floyd Square about a snow globe, where something will come and shake you up, and it will be hard to see for a minute.
Yeah, the youth demand Shia Islam. The youth are going to demand Shia Islam. They are going to see the light of Allah. The American Christian dominance has gone on for far too long. Everyone knows that the United States of America must be led into the new era by seeing the light of Allah, recognizing Muhammad as his prophet, and changing our secular governance structure away from Christian values to one that reflects the true light of Allah. Shia Islam. It's literally going to be like those two comments in the book club in Disco Elysium. Very worrying. Bro, you need to say this as a joke. They will believe you. I am saying this as a joke. That's nuts. This is what the English right actually thinks is happening. Yeah.
But if you take a moment to settle, the vision of the core goal becomes clear again. So, yeah.
Well, Prague, appreciate it.
Goes out to everyone.
Thank you. Really appreciate your.
The only reason why 4chan memes become real life is because it's homegrown extremism. It's homegrown fundamentalism. This is no different than assuming that like America is going to adopt Sharia law. Okay, you have to be insane. Worry about, as do I, our own domestic extremism, instead of assuming that magically Americans are going to turn to Hezbollah as a form of civil governance here in the United States of America. You're insane. Having said that, there are some other points. No, Hasan supports Russia. No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does. He just runs defense for Russia genocide all the time.
He also raised $200K for Ukraine. Hitler, which by the way,
that's cool. You ran defense for Russia taking over part of Ukraine, so you still have not apologized for it.
Bad. Look at the sign. Actually, sorry, I forgot we elevated that to Vladimir Putin is very bad. From bad to very bad. Look at the sign. Hasan and his community are fundraising for Ukraine Crisis Fund, $200,000 so far. Here's the Russian military ad. According to Russia, they don't know who the f you are, but they don't seem to like me a lot. Meanwhile, turns out, according to Russia, they don't know who you are, but it seems like they don't like me a lot. Uncanny. Okay, you put my face on it. Yeah, I got dunked on by the Russian government. That was cool. Hasan defends Chinese colonialism openly. He's pro-genocide in Tibet. Not even debatable. He said it himself. He said their culture is inferior and that China did them a favor by taking
Yes, that's what he said.
them over. That's genocide. No, he doesn't. Tibet was a feudal, oppressive, slavery-backed autonomous state. Guardian. 98% of the population was enslaved. Way to describe Taiwan as well. The American federal
Similar
government.
term.
Wow, did you finally like look at something that Hasan has said?
Going to the
That Ethan has said?
South and killing, unfortunately not all of them, but a decent amount of slavers and defenders of slavery. This is violent retribution from a powerful federal government. That comparison is very frustrating for a lot of people because they were like, how dare you say that? Yeah, it's not even an apt comparison.
The
Because
same take that fucking Asmongold had about Palestine. So it is shitty.
because
Yes.
the Mao's groups would not have any kind of, would have no motion whatsoever if it wasn't for Tibetans themselves that had a anti-feudal uprising. Anyway, what is this?
This is from The Guardian. Until
It's
19...
not, it doesn't just end there, though. I've seen Hasan go on and on about how living conditions in China are improving over and over again, despite people throwing themselves off a fucking factory, off of factories, because there's such oppressive workforce. Like, he's always jerking off China over and over again.
when trying to crack down on Tibetan rebels in the...
Yeah. It's just like, I don't think that like Tibetan culture is barbaric or anything like that. Okay. It's the Tibetans themselves that, rose up against feudal slavery. The only place we deviate is that I don't think we should displace 8 million Jews that were born there. Hasan agrees. Why I don't believe in a two-state solution any longer.
So, there are...
Yeah,
If you don't believe in the two-state solution, what's the solution? What is an actual, meaningful, reasonable, intelligent solution?
not only do I agree with that no displacement of Jews that live there, I have had this conversation directly with Ethan. So I don't know what he's talking about.
What's your solution then? What are you talking about? Because that's like the insinuation is you do not care about Jews and you don't have any answer for displacement of Jews. That's literally his whole argument's been. What's your argument then? Like, what's the solution then?
In terms of his belief that I think I believe that we should displace all of the people that live there.
So what do we do with those people?
We had this conversation.
What is the solution?
Directly. Here it is.
There already is a one state. Like, the way I see it, the actual legitimate reason as to why I don't believe in a two-state solution any longer is because there is a one state, right? And that one state is an apartheid state. It's a
But you're saying that state's bad, so wouldn't you want to make it a two-state solution?
constant Israeli occupation.
There is no solution without a two-state solution. There's no meaningful solution that would ever be like productive for anybody without a two-state solution. Palestine needs to be seen as its own entity. It needs to be given some kind of reparations from Israel, and it needs to be able to try to grow as an independent state, because these two groups cannot live with each other, and there needs to be a third party that helps facilitate that. Probably a mixture between America and other Muslim countries, like maybe Egypt helping secure a border for a while until things settle down.
In the West Bank and constant control over Gaza as well, which has been a demonstrable failure for Israeli security, obviously. You and I agree on that. But my solution, basically, when I say I want a one state, is first and foremost a moral one, because I do want the end to the apartheid, so that Palestinians can have recognition, it can continue a life of dignity, have autonomy, and participate in a secular democratic process. But the alternative is, the way I see it is it a one state that is an apartheid, or is it a one state that doesn't have an apartheid?
What does that look like? It's just impractical what you're saying. It's not realistic.
And you're saying it could still be the state of Israel.
I don't care what it's called. I have no interest in discussing that. I care more about human beings that live there.
I guess it's like,
what is it you spread? So you think that the second that it's a one-state situation, you don't think that Hamas is going to attack Israeli people, or even in the opposite direction? You don't think that there's going to be any violent hate groups that are going to constantly attack each other? It's just never going to work. This is an impractical. At best, he's a fucking moron. This would never work. This is an impractical solution. This would never work.
Like this.
I have said time and time again that I think it would be unimaginable cruelty to displace hundreds of thousands of people living in the West Bank. Okay, that it is completely, it's just not going to happen. Not only will it never happen, but also on top of that, it would be cruel. Okay, and that is precisely the reason why I believe that Israel.
It's nice that you can say that, but your one-state solution makes no sense. It's not practical. All it does is cause two groups of people to start murdering each other. It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Israel has made it inevitable that there can only be a one state if there is a just solution to all of this.
That's not going to happen. It's an idiot's perspective.
Okay, admission to slander for a year is almost constantly elevating people that want me to die.
I mean, at best, he just has no idea what he's talking about. He's not practical or reasonable in any capacity.
And running defense for people that wait, what is this? Ease admission to slander?
That's why they're here.
There could theoretically be a democratic equal one-state solution, but most people on both sides don't want it. That's my point. Both people a government quite literally is its people. So if the people aren't going to put up with it, you're going to see hate groups on both sides killing each other. This is never going to be a practical solution. These two groups hate each other, and justifiably so, on both sides. If the whole argument is that Palestine has been oppressed by Israelis for so long, or specifically the Israeli government, why do you think that they would want to live under that rule? There's just absolutely no way that would ever function. Again, there needs to be a two-state solution with reparations towards Palestinian people. It's not practical in any other direction. It doesn't make any sense. it'll never work out. So I don't understand. Either Hasan is extraordinarily stupid, or what is it? What is it? He's at worst or at best he's stupid, and at worst he knows it's going to fail, and like he wants it to fail for some reason.
It was just constant like elevating people that want me to die and running defense for people that.
And that's true. Frogan is one of those people that wants Ethan to die.
Hate me.
I mean, they made a fucking Arab to Jew tier list, so
that's also completely untrue.
It is true.
There was another effort post specifically on this on my subreddit. That there was also another post on this on my subreddit specifically about how I had consistently defended Ethan.
You didn't though. Like your audience bullied him so bad you had to end leftovers and you refused to do anything about it. Like you ran zero defense for your friend. What are you talking about?
Throughout the entire process for the past year, saying that all things that I have heard from him directly, all things that I have seen from him directly contradict like him being this Israel defender.
And why didn't you clean up your subreddit and your Discord then? Like this is a game of pretend. Why wouldn't you clean up your subreddit, your Discord, and your subreddit of them people constantly hating on him and calling him like a fucking genocide defender and et cetera, et cetera? Because you don't actually think that. Your actions aren't communicating that. It's a big deal.
Having said that, however, of course, I've also tried to communicate to Ethan that like, while I know that you are not a defender of Israel, okay, people are not going to know what's in your heart and what's in your mind, and they only respond to what you are putting out there. So if 12 months of genocide and your output is specifically about like people calling you a Zionist over and over again, including but not limited.
That's not what his entire output is at all. That is like at all. He's getting fed up with you allowing your community to bully and harass the shit out of him because I don't think you see him as useful anymore because you've extracted as much as you can, like fame out of him as you can, and you just don't feel like supporting him any longer.
To many different moments where people would come in here and be like, he made fun of Aaron Bushnell. Who self-immolated. He did this, he did that.
He didn't really make fun of Aaron Bushnell. He did make a bit of a joke, but then at the same time, he is a comedic content creator. But what he really said, because nobody actually cares about the joke, what he really said is it's insane what he did. And it is insane to fucking light yourself on fire and kill yourself. It's insane, and you shouldn't be championing that because you don't want young people to do the same. It's not a good idea. We're talking about somebody that clearly had deep mental health issues to take their own life, and that was the general criticism with one joke. I don't know what to tell you.
He kept repeating certain talking points over and over again, and it's like
what talking points?
All of that is going to
what's this certain talking point? Just a talking point?
Obviously, cause people to assume that you are more invested.
That's like a dog whistle. A certain talking point. So we have no idea what that means. What's this certain talking point? What is it? What are you trying to insinuate to your audience, and what are you trying to insinuate to normal people?
In one side of this conversation, even in that conversation that we had months ago, that last conversation that we had in person, when he made a comparison about JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace, saying that there were capos as well in the Nazi regime that collaborated with the Nazi regime, that like, I tried to explain to him that like, I don't think you mean this, and yet people will hear that. People will hear that and assume that that's what you mean. Of course, people are going to assume that that's what you are saying. That's what I meant at the time when I tried to explain, like, there's only so much I can do in terms of like stopping the flow of criticism coming your way when you present yourself a certain way to the broader audience and you don't actually show the audience like what the full scale of your framework is. The moral of this whole story is what you said. If you repeat what Zionists say, you can't stop people from thinking you're a Zionist. Exactly. Here, this is the other effort pose. Timestamp breakdown. Hasan defends Ethan on September 13th, 2024. Ethan took a clip from the stream out of context on his show, so I figured it would be a good idea to add context by breaking down the stream with timestamps. Impossible to argue that Hasan is doing anything but standing up for Ethan and telling off his chat in the stream, regardless of what Ethan's unhinged, untrue rant, calling for his friend to be banned on Twitch will have you think. Ethan turning off comments on the video when fans disagree with him in the comments is insane. I think a lot of people fail to consider that when I choose
Are we going to watch the clip?
Not to show certain things coming from Ethan's side, it is not because I'm fearful of the brilliant points that he's making. It's more so...
No, it's because you're lazy and you never do that.
So that it's disappointing, it's sad to see, and beyond that, it's more so to, in some ways, not present him in the worst possible light that he
Honestly, after this, Ethan just needs to stop engaging with Hasan. He needs to stop trying to have conversations with Hasan, stop trying to be friends with Hasan. He needs to move on. He needs to stop even having the discussion, generally speaking, of Israel-Palestine from a Hasan perspective. And he needs to just move on and stop giving it anything. That's honestly like the best thing that he could really do at this point, because it's never going to get better. Hasan has no shame as a person and will continue to just gaslight and say the same exact lie over and over and over again consistently.
Desperately presenting himself as. Hasan begins reacting to the video why the Leftovers podcast ended. Hasan talks about why he never talks about Ethan, why Leftovers ended because parasitism and him not being at odds with Ethan on Israel-Palestine. Hasan says he doesn't care that Ethan calls him out because he knows Ethan's heart is in the right place about Israel-Palestine, regardless of how he treats Hasan's community and mods. Hasan defends Ethan, telling off his chat and saying that Ethan will never become MAGA. Anti-Semitism is abhorrent and completely unacceptable. I've never allowed it. It is my red line. Hasan says when he looks back at Leftovers, he's happy that it happened. Hasan supports enjoying Ethan's content, even when people disagree. Stark tone difference from Ethan saying Hasan should be banned on Twitch because of how Hasan's content makes him feel, don't you think? Hasan says
well, he should be banned on Twitch because he's pushing terrorist propaganda. What are you talking about? He should get like a ban for that. That's obviously true.
You got the feeling that Ethan thought Hasan was trying to turn.
How are you going to argue that you're not anti-Semitic when you're platforming up in the most like unserious, ridiculous way? Terrorism constantly by having terrorists on your platform, making them look really good, asking them stupid questions about anime, not giving them any level of any reasonable pushback, not doing anything, and then playing terrorist propaganda music on your stream. Like what else would people think?
The H3 community against Ethan when Hasan was instead offering him more charitability and banning chatters who came into the stream.
Hey guys, I'm not racist. And then like it's like if I said I'm not racist and then like fucking decided to have like a KK member on with and decided to have tea with him and not ask him anything about any meaningful anythings. That's exactly what we're talking about here.
The shit talk Ethan / cause drama. Hasan defends Ethan's character even when Ethan gets too passionate and flies off the rails because ultimately Hasan thinks Ethan's heart is in the right place. Hasan says Ethan is 90% of the way on the correct stance on Israel-Palestine. Hasan says please point to anti-Semites in the chat so we can ban them. Says anti-Semitism is banned in his community. Of course, because it always has been.
It hasn't been because again, you were letting people attack Ethan on Discord and in your fucking Reddit.
Hasan tells off a chatter for condemning Ethan instead of commending Ethan for having.
Hasan just decides to say things and not actually prove them with his actions.
The correct take in 2021.
Okay.
Hasan tells chat to shut up and he hates that they don't care about his well thought out opinion and hates how they call Ethan a Nazi and why he hates covering drama with Ethan and he knows that people will spin his opinion to prove his community is anti-Semitic. Hasan goes off on chat again, calling them crazy and telling them they can't.
I love how he's not watching any of these things. He's just taking this chatter's word at face value on whatever this fucking post is. What even is this post? What even is this? Like, can somebody find this? Like, what they're referencing?
Normal, saying that it's not Destiny Chatter's cosplaying, but rather people who say he is not sufficiently leftist. If I ever catch someone talking maliciously about Hila, I will ban you. You are an unhinged psycho. Permanently bans Chatter talking bad about Ethan. Hasan correctly predicts a reasonable take on the issue will not get clipped, but instead an out of context take will be clipped by Boner Chelly's community, which Ethan did use, by the way. Not only did he go directly to the subreddit, but he also
somebody find me that Reddit post.
So straight up used a clip from a clip titled Hamas Abi. How can I view that in any framework but pure, unadulterated, unregulated Islamophobia? An unlisted clip titled Hamas Abi. Like, that's insane, man.
Yeah, I agree, Ryan. I genuinely think Hasan is like legitimately malicious in the way that he talks. I don't think that he cares. I think that's one of the things about Hasan. I don't think that he actually cares about lying. I think that's like one of the biggest things about this motherfucker. I think he's just like a fucking actual just crazy person that doesn't really care about what he's saying. I don't think he has any like positive intentions. I don't think his heart's in the right place. I haven't thought so since this stupid motherfucker again, like, and I think it's a big deal that he justified Russia genociding Ukrainians to implant Russians into parts of Ukraine and say this is actually our territory. And Hasan didn't even apologize for that. Like, how do you move forward from that? And how do you, like, that's a huge fuck up. I don't understand.
It's insane. That's actually insane. That is not good faith at all. There is no way for me to actually look at that and treat that with like kindness and charitability beyond what I've done. I think the most charitable thing that I can do is refuse to talk about it. You know, it's insane that you support CCP. Okay, dude. I just want high-speed rail in the United States of America. I want even development in rural communities in the United States of America. Okay.
Yeah, true. It's would be very difficult to put high-speed rail like in meaningfully in the United States because it's so big, though. I think it's like so difficult. See a lot of mass transit, but I don't think that they're quite as robust. Or I don't know if it's quite as realistic to make it as robust here as in other countries, but it'd be cool.
Okay. I want healthcare in the United States of America. I want good college education in the United States of America that is free. I want better educational opportunities for every single American, okay? Hasan identifies someone posting an HU subreddit as a defan. LSF stalker who's been clipping him for 5 years. Frogan clip from Ethan's podcast. Hasan correctly predicts that all that will come out of the situation is drama that turns into drama content and says that his audience is annoying and don't listen to him. Hasan correctly predicts that random chatters' unnecessary chirping messages will be twisted against them. Ethan showed them on stream today. Hasan rage quits on chat explaining how their acting is why leftovers ended, asking the chat to focus on what matters and will advance the cause of a free Palestine. Just felt this VOD / response from Hasan deserves a voice because Ethan didn't mention that Hasan defends him and tells off his chat about it.
He doesn't defend him. His fucking own mod is sitting here having an Arab to fucking Jew tier list. How is that a defense?
This is from September 13th, 2024. If you look back at the early stages of the saga and the drama, you will recognize that I had time and time again done more than this, okay? More than this. Such a well-thought-out record-keeping of Hasan's reasonableness, but have you considered that Hasan is a Muslim and sending waves to signal his audience? Is there any chance that all he sees is and gives you charitability? Oh, I want it for him? I don't know, maybe. Like, that DanClancySucks.com website is literally reskinned hamasabi.com, by the way, because even they realize that, like, that level of Islamophobic fervor is probably not going to present well to a broader audience, so they, like, basically reskinned it. And it's all clips that are completely clipped out of context that go directly against things that I believe in. And this has been on.
Yeah, true. Roll read 100 Twitter posts and chat messages before watching 5 minutes of what Ethan actually said. That's true.
Going for the past year because that community, Boner Chelly's community, is way more predisposed with making a mockery and presenting.
You know what? The trajectory of this is going in a really positive direction because at the end of the day, Hasan has been consistently more and more talking about Destiny, and he's eventually going to have to talk to Destiny, or he's going to look like a fucking fool, and then he's going to get embarrassed, and that's going to be it. All right, Destiny may not be the most sound of character individual; he just has his flaws, but frankly, I think Destiny is certainly a better person than Hasan. So,
a false narrative surrounding one of the loudest voices that is pro-Palestinian emancipation than the actual genocide. They don't give it. They do not give it.
yeah, you're right. It wasn't Arab to Jew. It was Arab to Hamas.
Why do this? He's just going to misconstrue your points like last night. It's okay because there's 38,000 people in here, and not every single person in here is totally primed and totally tuned into the.
Well, you know what? There's 380 people in here, maybe. So, suck my fart. Am I right,
So
guys?
it deserves some level of recognition for those who are in here who are like, I don't.
Oh no, there's like 900 people. Why the fuck are more people? Wow, I guess this is a popular topic. Incredible stuff. I'm gonna peep.
don't really understand. I thought you were a cool guy, but now I'm thinking that you're a pro.
I try not to get too excited when I get an influx of viewers, because I know a lot of it's the topic conversation. It's fleeting. So I try not to go like, holy moly.
Islamist fundamentalist terrorist.
What is that, 2% of the audience? There we go, baby. I got 2% of the audience, dude. There it is, dude. 2%, bro. Like the milk I drink.
Dude, like what the for a year, Hasan was constantly elevating people. Hasan has always defended I think you're a good person. Just understand that people don't know the empathy that you have.
It's true, it's a big topic. Yeah, but I usually don't get this many views for big topics, so it's crazy.
Simply see similar talking points that they've heard from others that don't demonstrate that same empathy.
That's all
Ethan, I know. I never
You
said
disagree, clearly. That's it. And that's fine.
I don't, Ethan. I've never said any of those things against.
I know Hasan keeps trying to dodge the debate. I love how he's just like, okay. I know that Hasan has said he won't debate Destiny, but there's going to come a point where he's going to have to. The stage is being set every day.
You and I don't believe that. I'm simply trying to
heard from others that don't demonstrate that same empathy.
That's all I'm doing.
I have to re-listen to this clip that he's playing instead of Ethan's actual arguments.
No, I never
You
said
disagree,
that.
clearly. That's it. And that's fine.
I don't, Ethan. I've never said any of those things against you, and I don't believe that. I'm simply trying to describe the position of Palestinians in this matter on this front. And,
You've done
not
that,
just
and I understand, bro. I understand. I understand. I've listened to you, and I agree.
I'm sorry. I don't want to fight. I think this is like, I mean,
what context is this showing? Like, what are we even talking about?
It sucks, and I'm sorry that I made you feel a certain way. I'm sorry that my community.
What the fuck? What was the point of even showing that? What did we even get out of that? What?
He's pretending that he has nothing to do with this. Ridiculous. He pulled a sub up on stream. I don't know why he's embarrassed about the association with Destiny. Like, I actually don't get it. Like, it's not like we've seen it. I know where these talking points are coming from. Like, I know where these clips out of context are coming from. And it's like my position on this has not changed, which is ironic because people at the time did not comprehend this. Like people at the time were thinking like, oh, he's saying he has no control. He has no control over his own community. Hasan has no control over his community. That's not what I was saying at all.
Yeah, no, that's what you were saying. Well, like you could have very easily said, you could have very easily taken the position of temporarily timing out, banning, or removing Reddit posts of people who were constantly being like hateful to Ethan. But you didn't take that firm stance because you're a fucking coward. What are you talking? Like that's the issue.
Okay, there's only so much I can do, but I cannot mind control people into.
No, you can't. But it's your community. You can have your community not do what they're doing and not harass Ethan in the way that they're harassing him. But you decided not to.
Assuming that you are pro-Palestinian when you are using similar.
Yeah, he's trying to show the part where he tried to empathize. Yeah, but he's not showing anything. He's just showing a moment where he's like, Ethan, I like you. It's like, okay, cool. That's nothing. That's not anything meaningful. Saying you like somebody, but then being a piece of shit to them doesn't exactly do anything productive.
Talking points to those who are, pro-Israel. I think people know that community is unhinged and obsessed, so Ethan knows it discredits his narrative. He's receiving all these clips served on a platter, trickled down long after you've dealt with them, and he probably knows it. No,
I think if anything, Ethan probably has a complicated perspective on Destiny, because I don't think that Ethan thinks he's the greatest guy. But he makes good points. That's what brings people back to Destiny. He'll be an unhinged fucking goblin sometimes, but then he's an incredibly intelligent person. And like he'll have a positive impact in other ways, and people are like they can't help but like respect the guy. I mean, that's what it really boils down to.
But yeah, I think like this does a pretty good job. I think this does a pretty solid job of like, maybe showcasing like what the what the narrative is. You said this exact quote. I know it's weird that I repeat myself so much and have to do it time and time again. It's because D called X podcast buddy R-word several times, so it's pathetic for him to capitulate that openly. Yeah, aren't there logs of Destiny time and time again saying like Ethan is R-worded over and over again? He's like pathetic and all this. And until it
sometimes Ethan is pathetic. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. He's fucking. Sometimes he's cucked. It's the truth.
Basically, until basically this was a good vehicle to unload the frustrations that you feel Because it seems, I remember people at the time being mad at you in bad faith, obviously, for being nice to people you know personally.
Bad faith, obviously.
You saw the same critique come up recently too. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. But the point is, you've always been courteous and have never done anything that could possibly be construed as leading your followers to harass anyone. Even
okay,
this clip itself says, "Please be nice in the
when your literal mod is harassing Ethan." But you're right.
comments. Do not harass Ethan. Hasan and Ethan are friends. Be respectful. Not just logs.
Hey guys, don't harass Ethan. Oh, what are you gonna do about it? When you do harass him, I'm gonna pretend it didn't happen. I'm actually gonna agree with the harasser. Oh, okay, cool.
But clips. He said he had an IQ of 80. Yes, there are tons of clips. It's just strange that like this level of serialized, systematized, open cyber stalking and mass harassment campaigns is so normal, and there's like not really anything you can do. But yeah, I have to obviously still address some of this slander, you know? What is this? We've seen such a weird progression of Twitter wokeness to where now a plainly reactionary community like Destiny's can employ tools of shaming and canceling while still using slurs in the very same tweet that they do with. It's crazy that Hasan will shit all over me and call me a racist for using the N-word in quotes while doing a podcast with this guy, Lamau. Not trying to defend H3 by any means. It's just surreal how the previous generations of people calling cracker a slur would have rallied around H3 for using slurs in that clip, but have now found a way to have their cake and eat it. Appear progressive while reactionary. That's from, you know, all the way back in 2021.
That's crazy. I don't care. What does this have to do with Ethan's perspective on anything? That's what we're supposed to be talking about here. What's going on here?
It's not his account. Yes, it is. Talking about.
I mean, you're the one who's making this about Destiny at this point. Oh, that's what the rest of this is about. It's about Destiny. It's not even about Ethan. We're doing more about Destiny than Ethan in this whole fucking thing.
I don't know what his new account is, but this was at the time his account. That's so funny. People are like, that's not his account. Yeah, he's been banned a million times over because, you know, I think you know why. I know you.
Yeah, because he actually, I don't know if you guys know this about Destiny. He puts actual terrorist propaganda on his page. They definitely need to ban this guy.
No, what everyone knows, but this was hilarious. Imagine lying to your audience so comfortably. What is this?
Pretty severe, the way that he draws everything back to Destiny. I don't know him. I've never talked about him on the channel. Because Destiny's been getting like mega canceled by every conservative for saying he doesn't go about the guy who died, which is whatever. You know, here's the one where he actually had a debate with Destiny. I mean, guys, there's Vosh, Destiny, and Hasan, and they all hate each other. They're all social, or no, Destiny's not socialist, but they're all like libs, and they all hate each other. And Destiny was digging in on him, rightfully so, in my opinion. I mean, geez Louise. Being like, I'm a terrible person. I'm the worst. And as soon as Destiny gets on, he goes, yourself. You're a terrible person. He says, Destiny and Ethan Klein call me foolish for supporting the Tate's innocence. Then once Destiny calls him, he starts tilting him so bad, and he's more and more deranged. I guess Destiny.
I like how he gives so much more time to Destiny than he does to his actual friend Ethan. Like Hasan, like, let's be absolutely clear. I believe Ethan was referring to Destiny. I talked about it in my last video. But Hasan has got like full Destiny derangement syndrome. Instead of talking to your friend in private like Ethan wanted to in the first place, or actually engaging with what your friend had legitimately said about you, you're now going on about a Destiny conspiracy theory and having a fucking meltdown about it and just trying to say Destiny bad, and that's why none of the criticism matters. It's funny.
Destiny has a problem with this guy. I think everybody has a problem with this guy. Outside of Fresh and Fit, like Destiny was saying.
These are the same attitude.
You don't know what Destiny's talking about. He could be talking about the political streamer Destiny, or he could be talking about a black stripper.
The same type of out of context clips that D watches. Like, I know he knows who he is, dog. What do you mean? Like, of course I know who. I know he knows who Destiny is. What are you talking about? He knows the subreddit was being brigaded at the time too. It's not necessarily that he knows who he is.
In a positive way. He might not have, but I'm sure that he does. I don't think he dislikes Destiny. Thank you so much for the small gut from Missy Has Munchies.
It's more so, what my point is not that he knows who he is and he's lying about it.
I stopped listening to Destiny after he said being a pedophile is a sexuality. I feel like Destiny never said that. What? I don't think Destiny ever said being a pedophile is a sexuality.
Everybody knows that. It's not that. My point is he's getting his compilation of clips, I don't think from his own production staff, to do like this clipped out of context, like Hasan is extremist, loves Russia, loves China. I think he's getting it directly.
Yeah, he is.
Directly from Destiny's community, which is...
we've literally watched debates where you've run defense for China and Russia, so...
is odd. Bro, the Destiny subreddit are straight up celebrating providing ammo. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's scouring that subreddit to find...
Destiny's community being fucking insane goblins doesn't change that your community are insane goblins. This is the thing that needs to be understood. This is the thing that I can respect about Destiny. Destiny is a fucking goblin, and I think he fully acknowledges and understands that. Hasan is a fucking goblin too, but he pretends that he's not. That's it. They're both goblins. They both have fucking... The communities are both insane. Frankly, from what I've seen, Destiny does a bit more to curb his community than Hasan does, certainly. Hasan can't even curb his community against one of his own friends that he does a fucking podcast with. So... let's just be fucking real.
Oppo on you, it's clear. It's like if I went to H3 snark, which I talked about yesterday. I was like, it's not normal to follow someone that much, especially if you hate them. But like, it would literally be if I did a H3.
If you don't like somebody, don't talk about them at all.
Snark subreddit review.
Don't criticize them. Isn't it insane when you criticize people you don't like?
you, where I compiled all the things that H3 Snark put together, and then I was like, well, these are my valid criticisms against Ethan, and then be like, he's too afraid to address them. You know what I mean? Yeah, I saw this. Here, this is, yeah, I saw this. Ethan Klein scrolling Destiny subreddit for anti-Hasan talking points. Once again, how do you arrive at a Hamas Abi, unlisted Hamas Abi clip? A clip titled Hamas Abi that is unlisted. For the clip of you watching Kamala and grimacing when she said Hamas raped women, what's the missing context? I don't know. Do you think that...
Yeah, what's the missing context of you grimacing?
I haven't written extensively or talked extensively on October 7, the atrocities, what actually took place, the media coverage surrounding it, creating additional atrocity propaganda when it wasn't even necessary, but exclusively to make it seem as though all of, all of Israel's actions that came after October 7 would be justifiable.
Bro, you can't run defense for you smiling about somebody talking about women getting raped. Or people, excuse me, because it wasn't just women. There's men as well. Like, this is what we're talking about, the fundamental lack of empathy. If he paused the video and said, like, and he decided to go on an intelligent rant about how there's not enough credibility for the whatever accusations or something, that's fine. He's just laughing about it because he does not care. I'm surprised they even kept that in here. He does not care. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about Jewish people. He doesn't care about the West.
Or do you think that a 2-second clip is the sum total of my entire perspective on this matter? I'm a political commentator.
I don't know, man. I don't usually laugh about people getting raped, so that couldn't be me.
I'm a political commentator. Do you think...
Unless it was Jared Fogle, then I would laugh, because he kind of deserves it. Sorry, maybe that's a little too much. I don't know if that's against TOS, because I'm not against TOS, of course. I love toes. But, forget I said that. We're gonna... Maybe that's a little... I just don't know if that's gonna be... if that's ban worthy. I don't know.
I think I haven't talked about this extensively. Ban me, you were a pretty good...
What is the H3 snark?
Person to get into politics with, and I appreciate that, but after going through yours and other streamers' history, you are the most cowardly individual when it comes to defending your takes against others. DGGer for life. I'm not gonna ban you, brother. I don't know if the mods already did. I hope you live a happy life. I do mean it. Like, goddamn, dude. How do you get here? 2022. It was Dearborn. I live near there. We're gonna vote on an upcoming election. We're voting on the Dearborn situation. It seems the book should be allowed for public viewing. For real. Why am I here? Why am I even a liberal? Oh yeah, because I got a 5-figure check coming from TYT. Like, that's how much of a fan he was that he was joking about TYT checks. As someone who's watching in the TYT days, always so odd to me seeing people who've known about you that long turn against you.
Hurry up, son.
I know why, and I know how it happens. People are very passionate in this community. Okay, people are very passionate in this community, and if there is an issue, and
it's an anti-Ethan subreddit. Oh, gotcha.
Very passionate person. If there's an issue that they find to be at odds with their worldview, it causes them to like be shocked.
Anything plus snark is a hater community. Gotcha.
Like, it strips their identity almost.
Gotcha. Hasan loves to use genetic fallacy, invalidating an argument because you don't like where it came from. Is that what that is? Huh. I don't like Destiny, but his community could still have valid critiques of me. True. I agree with that. I'm just picking a wedge out of my ball sack right now. So sorry.
And they're like, I'm no longer welcome in this community. And then they seek out other places where they can get this kind of
H3 Snark is an anti-H3 subreddit, but it's been co-opted by Hasan fans, so it doubles as a Hasan Glaze farm. I wouldn't doubt that.
They look for another hug box, basically. And there are plenty of anti-Hasan.
I'm so happy that I'm just like not involved in this drama. Like, I like that I can talk about it and do commentary on it, but I'm not part of it. And I just get to watch from the outside, and then I get off this and get to play fucking video games and jerk off. It's incredible.
On communities out there. Obviously, the number one is the number one anti-Hasan community has been the cult. It has been cyber stalking and meticulously logging every moment that they can use through all of the political things that I've talked about to just basically create like haters in every sector. Chronically online people that behave in a cultish way that will change their political opinions on a whim as long as their Divorcelli God decides to change his perspective.
Divorcelli.
Because he had a dramatic perspective shift since 2018 when I first met him. Over the course of the past 6 years, he has gone back on a litany of positions that he argued for with passion. Okay?
Which ones? Are we talking about Destiny? Which position did he change his mind on?
Here's a question. Do these trolls do this for free? Yes.
Oh, thanks for telling me, man. I appreciate that. Was your opportunity to make an intelligent point, but...
Yes. Why was that? Why mine changed? I don't know. I don't know what a person's personal motivations are. This is going to be every stream until the election. We're 13 days away from the election. Is all internet drama bullshit. I know. I just felt it. I felt the need to, clear certain things, like to clarify certain things.
You didn't clear anything. You just fucking sat here and talked, and without showing any clips of Ethan or any of his actual criticisms.
Considering that I'm getting, a barrage of slander. After watching so much shit, I want to just say thank you. I don't care about specific American policies, not from there, but the way you break down policies and reference actual journalists is so commendable. Appreciate you caring much about the world. I don't know if it matters, but I'm referencing you in my master thesis. Sorry for brain rot, just ruining chat. I don't think I've ever seen anyone get hated as much as you do. Like, I stayed away from your content since 2020.
The top H3 snark subreddit, please boycott the show.
Because everyone was always ranting about how problematic you are. Another bull. Find out you're just advocating for human rights. Yes.
Yeah, it's extra funny when you find out that Destiny made Hasan. True.
When you are depressed, stuff like this gives you a sense of being in a community, but long term, this will just harm your existence. Yeah, that's what I also
No, but that's not true because Hasan made the political community on Twitch, guys.
try to explain to people in general that like this kind of championing for someone else, like an internet content creator that doesn't know you and fighting their battles like this is not going to make your life better. It's just simply going to increase the toxicity in your life. Most people do not have the time to watch an entire stream or to fully comprehend what my worldview is, and therefore they just often make up their own mind. They see like a bunch of people being like, this guy sucks, and then they go, okay, maybe this guy sucks. I don't even fault them for it. I don't even care necessarily. If they also did not dramatically change their worldview and start advocating for like white people being able to say the N-word or whatever it wouldn't matter to me as much. Like if someone is pro-Palestine unconditionally, right? If someone is pro-Palestine unconditionally, but they have issues with me in general, I think that anger is most likely misguided and misplaced, but it doesn't matter.
Probably not.
Jake Tapper just said Bernie Sanders is doing an interview on Discord with Valkyrie and Pokemon. Yeah, it's true. If anything, it's also an indication of how much this community touches grass. For sure. I mean, there's plenty who don't touch grass in this community as well. Let's be real. But last sentence on the bottom of my effort post, please. What was it? When you shit on the rainbow flag was the point of my journey where I realized I'm not immune to being reactionary. It's funny because it's a stupid reason to be upset with you talking about how tier its colors are. We disagree on a lot of topics and that's okay. I will never say farting on planes is okay, but understand that planes are loud. So maybe everyone does it and you're the only one brave enough to say it out loud. Yeah, that's the other side. I mean, that person is joking, but like there can be a bunch of things that you disagree with me on. The point is, bro, your take on Ukraine was so bad you lost a lot of people there for a moment. See, like people are still rehashing this shit. No, I was wrong to assume that Russia, specifically Vladimir Putin, would do such an unimaginably insane thing. And
what are we talking about? Russia?
That's the other side. I mean, that person is joking, but like, they're understand that planes are allowed to be upset with you. What was it? When you shit on the rainbow flag was the point of my journey where I realized I'm not immune to being reactionary. It's funny because it's a stupid reason to be upset with you talking about how tier its colors are. We disagree on a lot of topics and that's okay. I will never say farting on planes is okay, but understand that planes are loud. So maybe everyone does it and you're the only one brave enough to say it out loud. Yeah, that's the other side. I mean, that person is joking, but like there can be a bunch of things that you disagree with me on. The point is, bro, your take on Ukraine was so bad you lost a lot of people there for a moment. See, like people.
True, he was.
People are still rehashing this shit.
Yeah, because you never apologized.
No, I was wrong to assume that Russia, specifically Vladimir Putin, would do such an unimaginably insane thing.
You mean starving out Ukrainians until their death? Why didn't you ever apologize for it?
An unimaginably insane thing that is ultimately harming Russian lives.
What is the thing?
As well as Ukrainian lives. I'm saying that.
What is the thing?
Like, obviously, Putin should at the very least care to a certain degree about his own self-governance. So, like, if you at this point still think that
he didn't even explain what he did wrong. He's just being so vague. People who won't explain what they did wrong are not good people. Like he doesn't. What is it that you specifically got wrong there, Hasan? What he got wrong was saying that Russia had a land claim to parts of Ukraine because there were lots of Russians there. Because historically, Russia has starved out Ukrainians to their death and implanted Russians in there to say, "Hey, this is ours." That's what he got wrong, and he fucked up bad, and he's never actually taken accountability for it. And here we go once again, him pretending that he's taking accountability. Well, yeah, I think I messed something up because, you know, it was bad for Russians too, and Vladimir Putin should have it optically this, optically that. Wow, showing a lot of emotion there, Hasan. Incredible stuff.
You know, that I am, you said you didn't care about the Ukrainian constitution. Yeah, I care about human lives. I care about sparing human lives. I care about making sure that Ukrainians don't die in the meat grinder. What do you mean? Like, again, do you think I don't care about the sum total of like Ukrainian sovereignty? I do. I think it's unconscionable and completely unjustifiable that Russia invaded Ukraine. There's never been a moment where I've considered that to be acceptable or appropriate. And yet
you literally said that they had a justification for trying to annex Crimea. What are you talking about?
You still are pointing to something that is like, you're in the community of a person who has fundraised for Ukrainian victims of Russia's unjustifiable war. Someone who is, you know, okay, you learned a lot, I said for a moment. No, dog. You misunderstood my point that I was making. I don't even remember exactly what this was in context to, but like, again, you're doing the thing. Your take on Ukraine wasn't wrong. We're probably too early for most of us to take. That has happened. That is what happened to me for a while. Alman DeLorean says, the issue is so many people have with you is that you point out the double standards and flaws within the hegemony we all live in. Most streamers.
Why even read that?
Content creators and streamers are Western chauvinistic, and you're one of
you agree with that.
A few large creators that actively battle that. It's about bigotry, white supremacy, and better than thou attitudes. Yes, I think that plays a big role. Do you ever admit you were wrong on anything? Yes, always.
No, he never does. He pretends to. He just tries to pander to the masses.
Anyway.
All right, that was a literal waste of my fucking time. I really hope that nothing else comes out of this is an Ethan thing. I hope to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Hasan has become an
I hope to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ that Ethan does not respond to this. He just decides to smarten up and go, Hasan's not worth engaging with. It's time to move forward with my show and move past this blemish and not really talk about even Israel-Palestine, honestly. I think it's time to stay away from this topic. It's extraordinarily toxic because Hasan has made it toxic. They bully anybody that has a slight perspective outside of what he thinks or says. It's just not worth it to engage with this fucking psychopath. He's a loser. He's an idiot. He's extraordinarily unintelligent. And one day he'll get into a car crash and burn half his face off. Nobody will listen to him anymore because he's going to be ugly, and that's the only reason people listen to Hasan. Okay? I'm not saying I hope that happens. I'm just saying, if I became more ugly, nobody would care. So yeah, incredible stuff.